We are back. It is Monday, April the 4th, 2022, 6:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is episode 148 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And Tony and I decided to, change up a bit tonight and talk about some funny memories growing up. This is going to be a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! What's that, Tony? Sorry?
I said reliving our childhood.
Reliving our childhood. We have some funny stories to tell. And if you have any funny stories you want to share with us, throw them into the chat room. Throw them in the chat room. Share them amongst yourselves. This will be funny. Maybe some funny movie-going experience.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't share much about myself on social media, and I think people's perception of me is going to drastically fall down the toilet now. It's just gonna. Absolutely.
People look at you. Well, you know what? It might be, Tony. People look at us as we're saints. We're sweet church-going children, and that's what we were. We were Sunday school boys. We did our homework. We did our chores.
I don't share much about myself. I realize that we don't, and you don't either. I mean, other than like little glimpses of stuff here and there when we do this show, but we never have dived deep into like beyond the horror movie stuff. So this should be it'd also be very interesting to see like what your childhood was like compared to my childhood.
Well, that's
gonna be interesting.
This is the bullshit in the Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So that's essentially how we're earning the bullshit name tonight, I think is what's happening. So this will be a fun show. But before we begin, I do want to say that I have another little horror package that I am selling. So I threw this up on my Many Things Facebook page. I'm going to quickly let you know what I'm selling again. I got a lot of stuff that I'm just trying to clear out and make some room. I got doubles of a lot of things. And I thought, well, I want these things to go to a good home. So why not? So let me first let you know. So the horror package I am selling here, off the bat, this is what you're going to get. Okay, so this is what you're going to get in this horror package. I'm selling it for $450 US. That's $450 US. Shipping is included in that, by the way. If this interests you, feel free to send me a direct message on my Facebook page, Many Things Dave McRae. Okay, and then we can work out the details there. The last horror package that I was selling, I made an announcement on one of our shows. I got a message from somebody. We worked out the details, and I shipped it off to them the next day, and they got it. So perfect stuff. So anyway, so I have an It's Me Billy men's t-shirt, medium. You'll get that. You will also get, let's see what we got here. I feel like I'm reaching into my stocking here. You also get It's Me Billy on Blu-ray, brand new, sealed, as you can see. It's Me Billy on Blu-ray. You will also get, what do we got here? Ooh, the original Halloween on 4K. Unopened, sealed, brand new. You'll get that as well. The original Halloween on 4K. What else? It's Christmas. It's Christmas time. Anyway, here we go. Dune, unopened on 4K. You'll get Dune unopened on 4K. And these are the Canadian. Obviously, I purchased them here in Canada, so sometimes, depending on what it is, you might even see the little French translation on it, which is kind of cool for you Americans. If it's like, oh, that's kind of a niche little thing. Hey, it's from Canada. I can tell. What else we got here? Oh, I got a couple of these. So you're also going to get Halloween 2 Steelbook, brand new Halloween 2 Steelbook. Look at that baby right there. Look at that baby. Halloween 2 Steelbook. This also, it's Blu-ray. I think it's Blu-ray. Yes, it is. But it also includes a DVD version of the television cut. Not Blu-ray, but a DVD version of the television cut of Halloween 2. So that's kind of cool right there. You'll get that as well. What else are you going to get here? You're also going to get this book. This book right here, which is The Man Who Created Halloween. This is Irwin Yablon's autobiography. This goes deep into his time as a Hollywood studio executive, of course, the head of Compass International Pictures. And I believe he was, right? Was he at the head of that? I think he was. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I think he was. Anyway, I'm having a brain fart here. But brand new. It's got pictures in there as well. Now, it's not all about Halloween, okay? That is a big part of it, but it's about his life and leading up to, of course, creating one of, if not the greatest horror independent, well, at that time, the greatest, most successful horror movie in motion picture, independent horror movie in motion picture history. So it's a fascinating read. This is not my only copy. I have a couple of them. I picked them up at the Halloween convention, the 40th convention. So this is from the Halloween 40th convention in Pasadena from 2018. I have a hard copy. This is paperback, but I have a hard copy, which Erwin signed for me. But you can get this one. You can get that one as well. And as well, oh, wait, there's more. You'll also get, yes, I'm parting with it, folks. I'm parting with it, but that's also because I'm planning on getting another one soon. My Freddy Krueger Devil's Latex, A Nightmare on Elm Street glove. Yes, this is mine. This is the one you've seen me wear on the Slaughtered Lamb Movie podcast. When we were doing those shows, I've worn them in some photos of that I posted to social media. This is, and these are, well, I guess they're semi-real, I guess. They are sharp. Very thin, so be careful because you don't want to bend them or anything. But it's not plastic. It's not, it's not fake, I guess, for all intents and purposes. So there you go. You will get that as well. You can wear it around like I do sometimes on the show, or you can just stuff it on a hand or whatever and let it sit for display. So you will also get that as well in the package. So yeah, if that interests you, feel free to message me on my Many Things Dave McRae Facebook page. Send me a message there. We can work out the details. Again, $450 US, shipping included, and I will send that to you guys. I don't think was there anything else? I'm trying to think of anything I'm missing. I don't think so. So again, yeah, that's Dune on 4K, Halloween Kills on 4K, the original Halloween on 4K, all brand new, by the way. Halloween 2 on Blu-ray and the DVD cut of the TV version, Steelbook, brand new. The Freddy Krueger glove, and It's Me Billy on Blu-ray, It's Me Billy men's t-shirt, and the Erwin Yablonza's autobiography, The Man Who Created Halloween. So, all right. Yeah, Darren says, Dave, chuck the cat in there too. The cat is in there as well, and I'm going to throw Tony in there as well. So, if that interests you, by all means, feel free, again, to DM me on my Facebook page. Tony, now that I've talked everybo's ear off, I will let you begin. Tell me a funny story.
Why me, man?
You want me to begin? Really? I've just been I've been.
I don't even know. In thinking and reminiscing, and first time in Jesus. Last time I watched a WrestleMania. There's a reason why I'm saying this is me and my brother were talking about it this week because it was like the first time in at least 13 years, if not longer, we watched WrestleMania this weekend because Austin came back for one more match.
I heard about that.
It was great. It was great to see him. I was a bit hesitant. He's 57, so I was like, I don't know what we're gonna get in this.
He's up there.
But he surprisingly he did well in the match with I think Kevin Owens is the guy's name. Really didn't care much about any of the other superstars. I mean, Ronda Rousey, I obviously know her from not WCW, but MMA. The rest of I didn't know anybody. I've heard the names, but I just really didn't care. Figuring, of course, Austin being, he was the main event on Saturday night. And then, he came back again on Sunday and had another moment with McMahon in the ring, and of course, once again, McMahon still doesn't know how to fucking sell a stunner. It's like
I saw that.
If you thought the first,
it was terrible.
First stunner that he tried to do was botched. This was like 1,000 times worse. And I'm like, but it's McMahon, awful. So you just kind of
and you're like 76.
Yeah, you're just like it is. And even Austin was laughing.
Hysterically.
What do you do at that point?
Yeah, I saw that.
But it was great. And so through that. We were talking, obviously we were reminiscing about, the Attitude Era and everything we got to experience. And we grew up, we were young adults during that. So then I was like, what can I talk about? Like, cause I mean, like from the summer of 5th grade through when we figured this out over the weekend, from the summer of 5th grade through sophomore year in high school, I got into 13 fights, like literally 13 fights. countless times being arrested.
One for every month of the year. What?
Countless times being, going into juvie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is not like, there's just going to be a really.
But Tony, you're tarnishing your church boy going image that everybody has of you.
There's just, I mean, it kind of is what it is, like, I grew up in a really, we grew up in a really rough area,
Mm-hmm.
The places now, like the townhouse that we grew up in, they are now considered section. I don't know. Do you guys have Section 8 housing up there?
Probably it's just probably not referred to as Section 8 housing. It's probably what do you mean by that?
Basically, low income housing.
Sure. Yeah.
Rough areas.
Of course.
Yep. We were living in an area like that at the time in the 80s. That was pretty much on the threshold of becoming that. Hadn't quite crossed over to that, but it started to get into to a little bit of the demographics of Section 8 housing.
Okay.
I'm trying to choose my words carefully because it's 2022. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And
I understand.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
it just,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then when we left there, the town we left to, and talking about this over the weekend, it's like the heroin capital of Connecticut. Like, I mean, really is. A lot of our friends are either dead from being drug dealers or in I'm not kidding.
No, I know. I'm just, I'm laughing because I'm like, these hilarious stories are off to a great start.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, damn, man, like we had a rough childhood. Like, that's why I got into, one of the reasons why I got into so many fights is because I was always the smallest in the group. So I was always having to, try to prove myself to people.
You were scrappy.
Very much scrappy. And you win some, you lose some, you know what I mean? But you live to tell about it too. We weren't shooting each other. If we watched the fight, we either you win or lose, and that's it at the end of the day. In fact, one of the last guys that I got into a fight with in high school, he died of a heroin overdose. And the funny thing is after our fight, we actually became like really good friends and worked out together at the gym a lot. Mm-hmm. We basically fought over a girl. It was just stupid shit like that.
Yeah. This was last week.
Yeah.
No.
Actually, he turned out to be like, it's funny. He was, and I always joked with him about it before he died, is that I was like, of all the dudes I got into a fight with, you're the only one I became good friends with afterwards. He just had it really good. We both had that kind of similar rough background and always trying to like having to prove ourselves and shit. It's just unfortunate. Like I said, the area that I'm from in Connecticut, just fucking heroin. Like it was like candy. And that was just one drug I was just too chicken shit. It was like, I didn't want to, test that. My drug use went as far as ecstasy and acid. I did that. Like I did X a couple times at a Dave Matthews concert because Dave Matthews especially in the 90s would come around and they would do the outdoor venues. Like I'm sure you guys have those outdoor little indoor outdoor arenas. And yeah, I remember the first time rolling on X and my girlfriend's like, dude, you're going to love it. It's going to be the greatest sex ever and all this stuff. It was such a letdown. I got like the worst, like there was nothing like it was a bad pill or something like that. And I just sat there like pissed off the whole night. Seriously, it really did. But that was it. Like heroin. I didn't want to, it's just too much of a dangerous drug. And as I said, either I have friends who are in jail or prison serving still because they were dealing, or one of our friends, because we were talking about that, like this kid, his name was Wahid, interesting name. And he's not like how you would picture him to be. Let me tell you, he was like, I don't know, 300-pound chubby white dude who just thought he was all hardcore gangster. And this is actually, I have to send you the article. He was literally, him and his girlfriend, they were literally executed. Like they raped his girlfriend and killed his girlfriend in front of him.
These are not funny stories, Tony. These are not funny stories.
That's what I'm saying. Like I grew up in it was not like, it was rough. It was,
I
very, it was a very rough environment. It was not, well, she's my sister. She dated.
No, I know, but you must have some funny things that have happened to you, of course, in the course of your life. I mean, the fights that I got into, those were fun. Oh, there was one time I threw a book through a
in chem class. I got pissed off at a teacher and took my chemistry book. And so like
chemistry book and your math book and your English.
So like at the side, we had like all the chem tools and all that stuff that were in this glass like cabinet. And I just basically took it and just fucking threw it and broke the glass cabinet and everything inside there. That was a pretty funny moment. Yeah. Well, okay. Here's one. So when we were growing up, I don't know, everybody had a different thing that happened, but when we were in like the 6th to 8th grade run, our Halloween, we would have 2 nights. We would have Cabbage Night and then we would have Halloween night. Cabbage Night was always the night before Halloween.
Is that when everybody plays with their Cabbage Patch dolls or?
No, what happens on Cabbage Night is you would go around toilet papering people's homes, trash pumpkins. It actually got to a point to where people would literally buy a crate of pumpkins and put a note at their door saying, "For Cabbage Night, please don't trash our pumpkins." They would, the ones that they would carve and leave at their doorstep and shit.
Right.
And you just, and then we also would have like egg fights. Like our neighborhood in the middle of our neighborhood, we had a little park. It was like a little softball field, playscape, basketball court. Nothing like really big. And we would go there and have an egg fight war with each other. Let me tell you something. You ever get pelt by a fucking egg?
Oh yeah, it hurts.
You're going home with freaking bruises, man. And that's when I started to reflect back. I was like, man, we had a brief moment of innocence before shit got really real. And we, what I mean? Like that innocence of youth and having fun to all of a sudden, you're becoming teenagers. And you're basically having to constantly prove yourself so that you don't become, bullied in the neighborhood, right? Because it was a really rough neighborhood that we grew up in. Geez, my brother, we were laughing about the amount of times that because he was like 8 or 9 and he was hanging out with us and we would send him off into the convenience stores or shopping with my mom when my mom would go grocery shopping and he would steal everybody like packs of cigarettes. He could come home literally with because like back in the day, cigarettes were at the end in the grocery store. They were on the end shelves. They weren't covered or anything like that. Or in the convenience stores, for those who were old enough to remember, they would put like the cheap brands like Monarch or whatever. They would have them like right out there and he would go in and just swipe as many cheap cigarettes for my friends because we weren't old enough to buy them. Yeah. We were only like 13, 14 years old. And we're sending it got to a point too where I remember when I was around 14, the woman in the store just said, "Stop stealing them. I'll sell them to you guys." Cause she didn't want to lose her job because we were swiping, cigarettes. Right. And that's inventory. Of course, you're a teenager. You're not thinking of this shit at that time.
Of course.
But one Cabbage Night when I was around 14 years old, my boys, I didn't do this, but my boys, bigger pumpkin than what Jamie Lee Curtis was holding in her hand in Halloween. It was big enough to where 2 people had to carry this.
Okay.
So they took the pumpkin and I don't know, like at the time, like, I'm like, what are you guys going to do with this? Like slamming it on the ground is not going to have the same impact of like taking a small, pumpkin and smashing it on the ground. Like this thing is fucking huge. Yeah. So then they get the bright idea to fucking throw this thing through a picture window.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude. And I'm just like, we're going too far with this shit. Like, what the fuck, man? And that was the summer I spent the night in jail for the very first time too. Shortly thereafter that was the first and only time I ever spent in jail. And let me tell you something, it's not a place you want to be. I can't even imagine people who are doing life in prison and whatnot. The one and only time that I spent an overnight, and it wasn't like a quick arrest where I was released. Because I had a lot of those where I would just, it was a quick arrest, you're a juvenile, and then you're released. Like fighting at the mall or fighting at a basketball court or something like
fighting in church or at a daycare.
Yeah, no, legit. Because where we played basketball was at the church, and that's what would happen.
Or fighting at a daycare. Or at a children's park.
Never. No, but I did beat up a kid with a wiffle ball bat who popped my brother's balloon because he was a little bit bigger than me.
Yeah, this was last weekend. No.
No, this is like I was like 9 and the kid was like 12 and
Right.
my brother was, 4 or 5 years old, and he got, remember those big balloons that had the big string on it and you would just go like this with it and it would bounce. Yeah. Well, the kid popped it and, I couldn't take the kid. So I grabbed my wiffle ball bat. I start beating him. Well, his mother comes up and she fucking hits me in the back, and my mom sees it from the top floor. They call the cops and they arrest the woman because she hit a minor. You can't do that shit. And I just, it's not anything to be glorified for sure. I think sometimes people get, this perception of, who you and I are, and like this idea that we had.
Nobody knows who we are.
This perfect upbringing. But, when me and my brother were, when we're sitting there like talking about this shit, like it wasn't easy. I mean, I remember one of the fights I got into, two of the last fights that I got into, I got jumped, but one was the kid that I told you about who died. And then I got jumped by 3 dudes who beat me with a gun over a girl. It's always over a girl, right?
Right.
The funny thing about that one is my boy's stepfather, his name was Kenny. Kenny was like, he was like, if Kimbo Slice had a twin brother, legitimately he looked like Kimbo Slice. Like, I got that's who Kenny was. And he told me, he's like, stay away from that girl, she's trouble, like this is, just stay away from her. And of course, me being me, I didn't listen, and I left my boy's house, who lived next to the girl, and I see the 3 guys out there talking to her. And I probably walked no more than like 30 feet past the house, and I felt something hit my head, and then I went to the ground. Now, I don't know if it was what I got hit, if it was the gun that hit me in the head that blacked me out, or if it was when my face planted onto the ground and knocked me out. I don't remember anything.
Or maybe he whipped out his penis and,
No.
No, okay.
No, because they were stomping on me, dude. And if my boys didn't rush out the house, they probably would have killed me.
Right.
Because they saw what was going on and they rushed out the house to stop, these kids from jumping. And these kids, because at the time when that happened, I had a late growth spurt in high school. Most of junior high, I was a scrawny little shit. That's why I got into a lot of fights, because I was always having to, fend for myself, and I'm surrounded by friends who are bigger than me. So I'm always, I wasn't going to be pushed over. And at the time when I got jumped, I'm no more than like 5'6", 5'7". So I'm still 3-4 inches shorter than where I'm ultimately going to be at 5'10". And I weigh maybe 115 pounds. And these dudes easily had to be 6 feet and at least 200 pounds. So one of them could have taken me on a one-on-one fight. But the funny thing about that fight was the girl, she ended up being a real bitch about it afterwards, because when we go back to school, and she was new in town as well too, she's running her mouth about how her boyfriend beat me up, when in reality it was him or her ex-boyfriend or whatever it was. It was him and 2 other dudes that did it. And my sister caught wind of that. And my sister had a reputation in town because she dated a lot of gang members back in the day. And she was in and out of a lot of group homes as well too. And I'm not going to share too much more other than that, because she didn't have it easy as well too as a young teenager. But she was one of those people. I didn't have a great close relationship with her, but no one fucked with her brothers. That was her thing. And when this girl was running her mouth about it, they were a grade behind. My sister was a grade behind me. But everybody knew everyone's business, you know what I mean? Because everyone sort of like ran with each other, girls were dating guys who were freshmen. So like just shit, people's paths were crossing, and even before social media, gossip would get around like really quick. Well, my sister found out about it. Yeah. And my sister showed up to the high school, and my sister beat the living shit out of this chick. I mean, literally, I mean, just like I've never seen my sister go off. Well, one other time I saw her go off on one of my ex-girlfriends in junior high, but they just hated each other from day one. Literally, just did not like. I was doomed pretty much for dating throughout all junior high because my sister just did not like any of the girls that I dated, and even to this day, it's still like that.
I understand. I'm not laughing. I'm just laughing at how not funny any of this. It's so tragic. It's become
honestly, if I didn't get arrested and end up moving in with my dad and going to a different school, I probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
I understand. I understand that.
Be dead.
I understand that.
I legitimately would be dead.
I understand that. I'm just,
I mean, we put ourselves like, look,
man, that was a good one.
look up Hartford, Connecticut, and look up, Hartford is like in the top 25 for gang violence in our country. Yeah. And it's been that way forever. Yeah. And we spent a lot of time in that area, hanging out in that area, having friends in that area. We had this one fight, big fight in junior high. It was the headbangers versus, you remember the term wiggers? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not a racial slur, people. That was literally a term back in the day that people used with a W.
Yeah.
It was basically meant for people who, were into hip hop, wore baggy clothes.
Well, they're white.
Versus headbangers. And they had this huge fight after school between the headbangers and the wiggers. Two kids got arrested for bringing a crossbow to this fight. And it was like, meeting out in like a field somewhere, and these kids went at it with each other. I didn't go to that fight, but I just remember that being such a huge story. Like, it's bonkers, but like, it's the childhood I grew up with. And I'm like sitting there, like telling my brother, like, dude, I don't have many fucking funny stories to share with people other than, getting into fights, getting into trouble.
I understand. Well, maybe I misunderstood last week when you said, "Oh, I've got some funny stories," and I thought, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I mean, well,
I have some funny ones. I can tell people some funny ones.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, I don't think you and I are going to be on the same parallel as far as upbringings, because like, I envision your upbringing being just a little bit more tamer than some of the shit that we went through.
It was. Where my sort of, so when I was a kid, obviously I was born in 1979, and my parents divorced when I was about 4 or 5. So my dad eventually moved from Toronto to Ottawa, which is about 4 hours away. Ottawa is our nation's capital. And in the late 80s, in 89, I had flunked grade 4, the 4th grade. But I was going through a lot at that time. My parents were divorced. I was living with my mom and my stepfather at that time, so it was a blended family. I didn't get along with my stepdad, and I flunked grade 4. And my mother thought, well, maybe a change of pace for me would be better. A change of sort of scenery, change of pace. And in 1989, when I was 10, I went to live with my father in Ottawa, and I had to do grade 4. If you hear me say grade 4, that's because here in Canada, we always put the grade before the number. And for some reason, the States, you put the number before the grade. I don't know why that is. I don't know we do
the same thing. Grade 5, grade 4. We do the same thing.
You do? Because whenever
in Connecticut, we did.
Oh, okay. Because whenever I hear an American talk about grade school, they'll often say 5th grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever it is, or you know what I mean? Whereas in Canada, we always go grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, but Connecticut's not too far from the border. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
I think we did it both. I think it was like grade 5 or 5th grade. You know what I mean? Like, it was just depending on
we don't do both.
How you were saying it. Yeah.
It's totally just grade 1, 2, 3. Anyway, so I had to do grade 4 over again. But now I was living with another step parent, which was my stepmother, Beverly. My dad, I had a half sister, Katie, as well. We had the same father, but a different mother. So I lived with them, and I was bullied as a kid. where I was bullied was primarily because of my family was in the public eye. So my father was always in the spotlight and I was an easy target. And but eventually when I got into high school, I started working out, running, got myself into shape to try and make myself as intimidating as I could possibly be at like 5'7" at that time and 150 pounds. But I was in good shape. I got myself in shape. I was pretty cut. And I got into a few fights, of course, I was not living in the environment that you were living in, but every high school's got bullies. Every high school's got cliques and groupies and different, and fights will break out and this kind of stuff. And I mean, it's high school, right? So there was that, and there's always that one guy that so-and-so brought a knife to school, and there's always those kinds of things. And but I did grow up in not in the same type of neighborhoods that you did. Obviously, we lived in a nice big home with a pool and all that kind of stuff, but it was everybody's upbringing. You go through difficult things are relative to your experience. Do you know what I mean? So, but when I was a teenager, one of the funniest things, well, here's a funny thing that I thought it was kind of funny. So when I was a teenager, my dad, I think I might have told this story before, but my dad, I'm just looking at Frank. Funny story. So I was at my parents' funeral.
Dude, let me tell you, it was so bad. Like when you say bad, it was so bad, bro. Like,
no, I get it.
We couldn't even. To get clothes, we had to go to Lost and Found. That's how
I get
rough
it.
it was.
I totally understand.
Afford to go to like buy shit. We had to go to Lost and Found.
I totally understand.
That's how rough it was. Like people don't understand. Like I know there's people making jokes in the chat room. But,
no.
Like
no, they're not.
If you've never lived in that situation before, shut the fuck up. Really?
No, Tony.
It's nothing
not
to make light of.
No. But
it's
Tony,
nothing to be glorified.
Tony,
and it's not to be made light of.
I understand. I don't think Frank meant it that way. I don't think anybody in the chat room is attacking you personally. I think it's just, to be fair, I made a post. Okay, I made a post in a thumbnail that said funny memories, right? And I think people coming into the chat room were expecting, it being not so heavy-handed. I don't think anybody in the chat room would make fun of your situation or your upbringing. Those things are very serious and they are very real. And the fact that you were able to escape from that and to make a life that you live now as a photographer and to be successful is something you should be very proud of. And I think everybody in the chat room would be absolutely proud of you for that. I think it's just, they're more poking fun at if anything, at me, because I'm the one that made the thumbnail, with the two laughing emojis saying, hey, come on in, share your funny memories with us, right? And then, of course, things get very sort of serious and somber. I think that's where the poking fun is, not at you directly. So I don't get that impression at all. I think everybody in the chat would totally understand where you're coming from. I know I do. What you've been through is tough, man. And like I said, you should be very proud of yourself. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's real life. And one of the things that we have to remember is that we can't help what we're born into. We have no choice, right? You didn't have a choice of what you were born into or what your life was like. You have a choice later on in life, depending on the decisions you make, right? But
true,
be damn proud of that.
I also look at it as my folks did the best that they could in
100%.
the situation that we were in. You know what I mean? Like I don't look
100%.
at it in that regards. It's just unfortunate that I do wish I had more of like what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like
I get
more,
it. I get
more of that scenario rather than looking back going, damn, man,
listen, I'm not going to name names, but there have been people close to me that have not had that. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what you went through. I have no idea. I mean, obviously, as a kid growing up, I went through my own struggles. There were people that were close to me. I don't want to name names because I don't want to do that, but people that were very close to me, growing up that had an awful situation at home. And I was one of their only reliefs from that situation. So totally.
You sound like my buddy Todd. He lived not too far. So where we lived, poor section, right? Like literally like how like Eminem describes 8 Mile, you have poor section, rich section. Literally that's how this area of Enfield was divided up. And literally in walking distance, they lived in this beautiful like mansion, and very similar. It sounds like Todd for me was what that dude was for you. That I could go to his house,
100%,
get a meal, whatever, hang out, stay away from a lot of the trouble that my friends were getting 100%. Into and shit like that.
And although I can't sympathize, I can certainly empathize. And and I don't think anybody in the chat room was poking fun at you. It was just, again, it was me, because I had given everybody the impression that we were going to come out of the gate with these hilarious stories. That's my goof. That's my goof. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame me. Blame me. Don't. It's totally my fault. And but here's a funny story. So I got a funny one. Okay. All right. Okay. So when I was a teenager, maybe I've told this before, but when I was a teenager, we were, I think it was 17, 18. No, I think we were 18 somewhere around there. And my parents, so when I say my parents, I'm talking about my dad and my stepmom, had gone away to like a cottage for the week. So it was the summer. It was summer of like 90, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something. And I had my buddies over, Brian and Evan, shout out to them. And we wanted to, and this is before social media. I mean, yes, the internet was around, but nobody was on the internet. It was dial-up. Nobody was using it. You know what I mean? I didn't even have an email address. And so we were like, well, we could go to a strip club or we could hire strippers. And I thought to myself, well, how do you hire strippers? Because I'm thinking to myself, I mean, people do it. They go to bachelor parties. They go to, wherever. I mean, you can hire a stripper, obviously. I see it in the movies. I mean, how do you hire a stripper? I mean, we could go to a strip club, but of course, at that time, we didn't have a car or anything. We can't ride our bikes there. That's lame. So we're like, what are we going to do? So we go to the phone book. Kids, there was this big book called the phone book. Back in the, do they actually still have, they have to have phone books, I'm sure. But anyway, so we go to the phone book, but we go to the yellow pages, okay? And we pop open the yellow pages and we're looking for like adult something or other, right? Well, not thinking in my brain, I go to what is something that is... I go to the yellow pages and I go to the escort service. Okay, so I go to an escort service. Okay, now I don't know what an escort service is. Okay, I have no idea what an escort service is. So my parents are away. My little half sister, she's away with them at that time. She would have been like, I don't know, 10 or something. She's away with them. I didn't want to go with them because that summer I was working at the movie theater and I was making some good coin. Good coin for like an 18-year-old, right? I'm making some good money. I didn't want to go. And plus, when you're that age and your parents are going away for the week, what do you want to do? You want to stay home. You want to stay home. Freedom. You know what I'm saying, right? So anyway, so they're over and I'm like, well, why don't we call? So I call this escort service and all you hear is like, hello. It's like I called somebody's home phone number. Like, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting like, Bob's escort service. I have no idea, but it was just like I had rung somebody's personal line. Hello? It's like, what the fuck? So I'm like, yes, just wondering if I can hire whatever, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, yes, you can. What do you want her to look like? And of course, now I'm thinking to myself, well, this is great. I'm thinking, well, we can pick and choose and what we should look like, and so I said, so me being partial to brunettes at that time, of course, that's when I was really into Jennifer Love Hewitt and all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, do you have a brunette, this kind of thing? And yes, I think we can handle that. White brunette, 5 foot, whatever. Yes, perfect. And so what do we do? Okay, well, for whatever reason, now remember, we're teenagers. So we go upstairs to my dad's closet and we take my dad's dress clothes out of the closet it. And the three of us dress up into my dad's dress clothes. Okay. So we're like putting on my dad's dress clothes because we want to look all like, you know, sophisticated when this stripper arrives. Okay. It's not a stripper. Okay. I've called a prostitute. That's who I've called. Okay. And I didn't know that. All right. I didn't know that. So we're all excited. We think they're going to show up. We're like, what do you want to do? I don't know. So we'll put in here. We'll set this up over here. We'll do this kind of stuff. This is going to be fucking awesome. We're going to have a stripper, man. This is going to be great. Woo! It's going to be great kind of thing, right? We're like pooling our cash together and stuff. I got 20, got 5, I got a 5. Hang on. Here's my piggy bank. You know, that kind of stuff, right? We're teenagers. So then this green car shows up, like this boat of a green car. Like it's like one of those like Cadillac 70s kind of cars. Yeah. Kind of thing. And it's outside, right? And I'm looking through the living room window. It's got to be like, you know, 11:30 at night. I'm like, she's here. And so... So my buddies go to the kitchen. They sit in the kitchen, right? And they're like, okay, you just sit there. You know, boom, boom. The doorbell rings. So now I go to the door. I open the door expecting to see a young, brunette, attractive woman that anybody would love to see nude. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure. I
open the door, and standing in front of me is a woman at least in her mid-60s, okay? She's blonde, or I think gray, actually. Blondish gray. She's got a nose like the Wicked Witch of the West, all right? I mean, listen, I know but I'm just, come on, we're teenagers here, okay? I know love is in the eye. I get all that, but I'm just saying, okay? You know, you got to think about in the perspective, people, perspective. And she's got these rainbow colored like stockings pulled up to her knees.
Damn.
Now, you know, so I'm like, oh, hi, come on in. You know,
what
whatever.
was her name?
I can't remember. I don't know, Kiki. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't remember. So I bring her in. Why am I bringing her in? I think I was stunned. I think I was so shocked and stunned. I didn't know what the hell to do. So I bring her in, okay? And we go into the kitchen. And as we enter the kitchen, my buddies are there. And she walks in and she's like, oh, now remember, I don't know. I think she's a stripper, okay? So she walks in and she's like, oh, there's 3 of you. And we're all like, well, yeah, who cares? Like, what difference does it make if there's 3 of us or 10 of us? What's the big deal? And she stands there and she goes, oh, well, I guess I can do you one at a time. That's what she says. I guess I can do you one at a time. And then it clicked in. And I'm like, oh, no, we just want, you know, strip, blah, 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 blah. Just she's like, oh, well, I don't do that, baby. Whatever. She's there to make money. She's there to make good money. You know what I mean? Who knows how much it could have cost, would have cost us. So we're like, no. So what do? We pay her for her time because we didn't want, I don't know if she had like a pimp in the car with a gun or something. I have no idea. So we're like, hey, here's $40 or whatever we gave her for her time and gas or whatever it was. She left. So now you would think that would have been the end of it, right? You think that would have been the end of it. No. What do? We call back. we call back. And
Dave didn't learn his lesson.
We call back and I say, hey, listen. What you sent us was not what I wanted. Can you please send us a brunette kind of thing, giving all the, I might have even said, do you have anybody that looks like Jennifer Love Hewitt? I might have even said that. I don't know. So then like another hour, something goes by and then we hear like, we're like, what the fuck is that? We look out the living room window. This is like a movie. This is like a comedy movie. It's like something you would see in like Superbad or something, right? We open the curtain and outside is this big, seedy looking dark green van. No windows or anything. It's one of those old like, panel vans, and it's outside and we hear coming from the van. We're like, what the fuck is going on? The back opens up and out comes these girls, a couple of girls. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, she's here, Whatever. Right. So we get in place. We're all like, hey, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And then the door, and then boom, boom. So I go to the door and I open the door, and standing there is two white girls that were not what we asked for, but at that point we would have accepted it. Okay. Would have accepted it, whatever. And there was this, other girl there that she might have been Indian or something like that, and very short hair, but nothing what we asked for. And she was the one that was supposed to, come in and do the thing. The other girls were just there for her protection, I guess, or something to that degree. And we're like, oh, well, it's not what we, we feel bad. I mean, it's not that you're not, but it's just, you call, it's not what we're getting. We want it. I don't want to. And then now she wanted money to go away as well. And we didn't have any more money left for what she wanted to have. Right. So I had to get on my bike, ride down to the convenience store, take money out, ride back while I have 4 prostitutes and my 2 best friends hanging out in my house, okay? I have 4 prostitutes and 2 best friends hanging out in my living room while I ride my BMX fucking bike to the convenience store to take out like $100 or whatever it was I had to do. So I took out that, I go over there, I give it to her, and she's like, okay, it's for guys, and we're not leaving it. And they get it, and they drive away. And at that point, you know what we decided to do after that? We just drove to the strip club. After that, we thought, fuck it, let's just drive to the strip club. This is not working. So still to this day, I have no idea how the hell you hire a stripper. That's the moral of the story.
My experience is a little bit different than yours, because I met my first one when I was 10, because she was my neighbor directly across the street. Actually, no, she was a really cool. She was probably in her 20s. Her name was Lisa. And right. I ended up cutting her grass for her. Okay, don't go there. I know. I was 10. Okay.
Right.
And shoveling the driveway in the wintertime, because I delivered newspapers on my road. Right. When I was between 10 and 12 years old for a couple of years, just to earn some extra money to help my mom out. She was cool. She was there for the first few years that we lived there. I just remember having just long conversations with her, because she was literally right across the road from us. And then when she left her house was abandoned for a long time. And we would sneak in there, and holy shit, the shit that we found in that house was like, again, I'm 12 going on 13. So I'm
dildos and vibrators.
I'm pretty much like I'm seeing all that shit. Like, you know what I mean? But she was, like I said, she was not like the typical, my guess. And again, this is, guessing on, her scenario. She probably got addicted to something and was obviously using that as a way to get money versus to, whatever. But she was not the same experience, because she was attractive. I will definitely say that she had short hair, kind of spiky, kind of looked a little bit like, if you remember Keira Knightley and Domino, not that's what she looked like, but the hairstyle. Do you remember that Keira Knightley was doing that? Like, and there was a phase where girls were doing that in the early 90s, where they were cutting their hair short like that.
Look at Winona Ryder.
Yeah, exactly. Good, perfect example.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you're sitting there telling the story, he's telling, I'm like, damn it. And here I am. I live right across the street from one. Like, yes. The parallel upbringings. Dave's having him come to his house. I'm like, I can walk outside and go right across the street and talk to one. Right. And I did, and she was really super cool. And look, I just, maybe it was just because I never looked at her that way. You know what I mean? Like, and of course I'm a young kid too at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe to her, she just sees it as, because I don't know what these women are going through when, they make that type of life decision.
It's true.
to do that and whatnot. That obviously cannot be an easy thing to do.
Right.
And you've really got to be almost at your wit's end to do that. So maybe for her, talking to this, her paper boy who was cutting her grass for her and shoveling her driveway in the winter times, just a scapegoat.
Yeah,
I
maybe
she had another girl there, but I don't know if that girl was doing it. All I remember though is when they just abruptly left and they were gone, and no one was in the house for a while. We just decided to sneak in there, and when we snuck in there, it was just it's stunk of weed. Like, have you ever smelled old weed? Like, if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
really,
it's like a combination of it. Almost
it's like the worst smell next to a dump. It really is.
It's like mothball-y almost.
Oh, it's such a bad smell. And then just like you said, finding the toys and all that shit in there, and just like, so that's my one and only ever encounter. Is she was our neighbor.
Well,
you kind of figured it out when dudes were coming in and out on a consistent
on the regular
basis. You were like, all right,
Well, I got another one for you. So I'm over at my buddy Brian's house, the same Brian that was, and my friend Evan. He has a picture of us that night because we got dressed up in my dad's suits. He took a photo of us in those suits. So he's got I would assume he's got that somewhere. I have no idea. Maybe he doesn't anymore. It was 25 years ago, so I'm not sure. But anyway, so I'm over at my buddy Brian's house, the same friend that was there at the the prostitute night. I don't know if this is before or after or when, but so I'm over there, and he does what a typical teenage boy would do. My dad's got a porn stash. You want to see it? And I'm like, no, your dad's got fucking porn stash. It was so funny, right? So anyway, so his parents aren't home. So we go into the master bedroom, and his dad has like this curio cabinet, or like not a curio cabinet, but like some sort of cabinet, a big sort of vestibule, or I think that's what it is, right? Or whatever, a big kind of thing that is sort of in the corner of the master bedroom. And so he's like, it's behind there. There's shit behind there. So I go over there, and he's like showing me these magazine stuff, and there's like VHS tapes. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, so I'm back there. I'm like got like one leg in there, and I'm looking at this stuff, and all of a sudden we hear his dad coming up the stairs. He must have come in through the garage or something. There's something, and we didn't hear him, and all we hear is, Brian, are you up there? And we're like, so Brian has time to, because he's not where I am, so he has time to kind of dart out of the bedroom and sort of block his dad and go, oh, hey, Dad, what's going on? Whatever. And I didn't, so instead of leaping left to dart out and maybe go to the bathroom or something, I leap in behind the cabinet. So I'm now in the master bedroom behind the big sort of fucking cabinet with all the porn is, and his father comes into the bedroom and is like taking off his tie and stuff. It's like a movie, and I'm behind there, and I'm like, I mean, all he would have had to have done is sort of walked over to the corner or walked over to the cabinet and just looked closely, and he would have seen his son's best friend behind the cabinet with like a magazine in his hand going, hi, Mr. Bork, how are you? I mean, it was so ridiculous. Thankfully, when he went into, because a lot of master bedrooms have their own bathrooms, so he took his tie off, and I think he undid his shirt or something. He was probably coming home from work, and he walked into the bathroom and shut the door. And at that moment, I was like, okay, this is my chance. So I'm like slithering out behind the thing, and I can see Brian at the door going, come on, get the fuck out of there, whatever. And then of course he wasn't any the wiser. Of course, if he's watching the show right now, he knows now. But maybe Brian told him years later. I don't know. But that's another funny thing that kind of happens when you're a typical teenager, and you're, especially boys. Girls can get into that kind of shit too, but boys especially, because they're always getting into shenanigans and getting themselves into situations and things like, and taking those little risks and things like that. And it's not like we were little. Like, again, we were probably like 16 or 17. It's not like I was 10. Oh man, funny stuff. Another one I
don't know what fat. Did you get a text from me?
Oh, let me just see here.
Because I want you to share this just to give people an insight. Maybe they'll have a little bit more of an appreciation.
Text from you.
So I don't know how long it takes for you to go.
I did. I got it. Yeah,
Can
there you are.
Pull that up and share that onto the screen?
I would have to.
Or do I need to email it to you?
Can you email it to me? That'd be better.
Yeah.
That'd be better if you email it to me.
The room that you're looking at, that was my room. That's how bad it was, dude. Yeah.
I don't think it looks. I mean, no.
Yeah. Zoom in a little bit closer.
No, but I've been in places like that, dude. I have.
Yeah. So
I have.
Busted door and
yeah.
That was life.
Let's just say that I've been in places where there's been feces all over the wall.
We weren't quite there, but we were
I can, like I said, I get it. I do. I truly do.
But you know what's funny? Here's the hindsight of this, of all of that. You know,
who's the girl? Is that your girlfriend?
So at the time, we're smiling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as bad as it was, as rough as it was, some of those friends that I had, they would have taken a fucking bullet for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's friends that I had back in the day that I know would have fucking, like my boys, when they came out to, protect my ass when I was getting jumped.
There you go. I just brought it up now.
Yeah. So this is me and Shannon. That was my bedroom.
Okay. There you are. So let's do the top photo first.
That's me and Shannon hanging out in front of my house.
Cool.
Of course, the White Sox thing that was very influenced by Eazy-E and NWA.
Yeah. And then the middle
I've
photo.
said that before.
Yeah.
Huh?
The middle photo is your bedroom.
That's me and her. That's me and her in my room.
Yeah. Very cool.
So, and of course there's my door, which was off its hinges the whole entire fucking time that we were living there. Cause I think I kicked it in or something.
Right. I got you.
But yeah, so I was a little dude. Like, I mean, you can see Shannon.
Did she write that on there? I love you.
Yeah, she did.
Very cool.
Shannon was probably no more than like 5'5". So you can see us standing next to each other. Like, my growth spurt and, really didn't hit for me until high school. And mattresses that were on the ground that looked like they're like 80 years old. There's my vinyl collection. You see it right there, the little cart
on the right,
or the little crate.
Oh yeah, the right. Yeah. That's great.
There it is.
That's great. I love it.
I'm surprised that shit survives for as long as
I love it.
Yeah, that was the early. Oh, that's what's on the wall there? That's the UConn women's basketball team. That's when UConn women had that was the first year. That was like 94, 95 when they had their perfect season. So we're about what, 14 in this? 14, 15, give or take.
Well, it depends what year it is. Yeah, is it early 90s?
Yeah, it's early 90s for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then of course, I drew the crow, thinking like,
right.
Crow.
Of course.
Basically our house was like totally graffitied up, like hardcore from between me, my friends, and
I can understand that. I can understand it.
But as bad as it looks, as rough as it was, there was a lot of good memories with those people, a lot of good memories with those friends. As I said, they would have done anything. It definitely a different time. You know what I mean? Like, here's a good memory. It's something I think every kid should experience once in their life, at least when they're 13 years old, because to me, it is the ultimate coming of age thing to do, which is sneak out of your house in the middle of the night during summer vacation. I remember, we had a local Derry Mart because we used to walk to our grammar school. I told Dave this before. We lived so close to our grammar school that we had options of either taking the bus or we could walk. So like there was no excuse to miss school. We were that close.
Right.
Kindergartners, obviously, first graders, third graders were taking the bus. But once you got to fourth and fifth, which is where the school cut off at, the fourth and fifth graders, we would walk, we would meet at the Derry Mart. We would get our honey buns or Nutty Buddies and Jolt. We drink so much freaking Jolt. I'm surprised my teeth didn't fall out.
I know, Jolt Cola.
Jolt Cola, baby. But so during the summertime, when we were young teenagers, we would sneak out like at 11 o'clock at night. We'd say, okay, this is, between 11 and 11:30, you got to meet us at the Derry Mart. And the exciting thing about that is you never knew who was going to sneak out. You never knew who was going to be able to make it out because, either everyone was, that you were planning this or nobody or only a few. And
it's true.
For the most part, most of us were able to sneak out. There was some times where some people just, couldn't show up because maybe they either fell asleep or, whatever. But we did nothing though. That's the thing. Like when I look at it all we did was we would just walk around the neighborhood in the middle of the night, play at the park, not play, but just kind of just
hang out,
do stupid shit, hang out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't have, cell phones. Well, that's the thing. Like nowadays kids would be posting that shit on the internet, getting caught within 5 minutes, like we didn't have that shit.
Or
so we weren't getting caught.
Yeah.
I do think though, there's a coming of age to doing stuff like that with your friends in the summertime.
There's something really fun about playing hide and seek in the dark.
Yeah. No, there is. And I remember, in fact, we did that, which, because my sister was friends with, that was one of my sister's friends. That was one of the only girls that my sister approved of me dating off and on during those years, because it was one of my sister's friends.
Yeah.
And when we were little, before we started to hit our, 12, 13 years age, we would play hiding. We would play hide and seek as if like it was Michael Myers.
Right.
I threw on the Don Post mask.
Yes.
And I would go looking for everyone. That was the only way we did it, So I would put the mask on and I would go looking for everybody and they would be hiding. And so, it wasn't all, it just, unfortunately, what started to happen in the late 80s, early 90s is, there was definitely a shift in culture. You know what I mean? A certain lifestyle began to take place.
The internet happened.
Well, no, when we were 12, 13.
Sorry. I thought you said the late 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s. The gang thing was becoming more of a common thing, especially in our area. Of course, I say that, but everyone's where they lived obviously is going to be completely different than where I lived.
Right.
But the gang culture definitely started to take over in the Harford County area, and that became a predominant thing. Which is unfortunate because it makes you grow up a lot faster. You know what I mean? When you're experiencing a lot of those situations at such a young age and getting into fights and, when you talked about the phone book thing, the first thing came to my mind is I beat the shit out of a kid with a phone book. I mean, literally. Right. Well, I had good reason to, because he punched one of my friends, Allison. So when you punch a girl, all bets are off at that point. So I think he had what was coming to him. But now in retrospect, at 43, I'm like, that was pretty fucked up of me to do, as intense as I did it, because like Dave said, back in the day, our phone books were like thick. Oh yeah. And if you're beating someone with a phone book,
it's not a TV guide.
No, definitely not a TV guide.
I know. I love the TV guides. I love the TV guides.
Fucking great. But did you ever sneak out? Like, would you and your friends ever, like in the middle of the summer, like during school break, sneak out in the middle of the night?
No, I never snuck out. But I'm trying to think, like, no, because it wasn't a situation where we felt that we needed to, I guess. I don't know how that.
We just did it because it was just fun. You know what I mean? Like that was our, because. Today kids don't really need to do that. Kids can get on their phone and FaceTime each other, or they can play video games and all that stuff like that. Like there would be no reason to sneak out because you can link up with your friends online. Where if we wanted to see our friends still in the summertime past curfew, we had to sneak out. Right.
Of course. Yeah. No, I didn't anyway. I mean, I'm sure I knew people that did for sure. But I never did, not because I was afraid to, just because I never felt the need to, I guess. Maybe I just didn't have those kinds of like friends where we needed to do. I have no idea, but I certainly knew, friends, like I knew people that did. And, but yeah, I mean, growing up, like it was an interesting thing. I had a very difficult time with my stepmother. She was, she was difficult to say the least, and not very, I mean, she had good, two things can be true at the same time, right? Certainly there were times where she was, all right, she's kind of cool today. But most of the time she was not very cool towards me and my side of the family. She was very sort of, all about her own kids and things like that. But I remember something that's funny about her. She's passed away now too. But something that's funny about her is that she had this, I don't know why she did this, but she, for whatever reason, loved to make you feel bad. And one of the ways that she would do that is she would answer the phone like this. Hello. Like as if you just woke her up.
Inconvenienced her.
You inconvenienced her. That's exactly it, Tony. It's exactly it. And it was a thing. Like she did it all the time. And I remember sitting on the couch watching TV, having a conversation. She'd be like, oh, hi, Dave, how are you? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. The phone would ring. She'd go, yes, I know what you mean. Hello. Like, I'm thinking, what are you doing? Like, at least hide the fact that you're trying to do that. So there was this one time that Evan told me, I think I went to school the next day, and my buddy Evan is like, dude, I called you last night. I'm like, you did? He's like, yeah, I called you. I was like, what time did you call? He's like, I called you around 7:30, and Bev said that it was too late to be calling. And I'm like, what? So Evan said what happened was that it's like 7:30 at night. We're like 17. It's not late. It's not too late to be calling at all. And Bev picks up the phone like this. And Evan goes, hi, is Dave there? And Bev goes, oh, Evan, don't you think it's a little late to be calling? And he's like, it's 7, no, and well, Dave. Anyway, she never passed that message on to me. She never passed it. I had no idea until the next day I got to school that she was the kind of stepmom that when I was still, because you eventually get to a certain age where you don't have to call home to let your parents know that you're spending the night at your friend's place. You just spend the night there, But when I hadn't hit that age yet, whenever I was like, oh, yeah, I do want to spend the night, man, but I got to call home and let my parents know. And I'm like, fuck, please. Like, I don't want to get Bev on the phone because Bev's going to be, please let it be my father. So whenever I'd call, if I got my dad, he'd go, hello. I'd be like, yes. In my head, I'm like, yes. I'm like, oh, hi, Dad, it's Dave. Oh, hi, son. I'm just spending the night at, Evans or whatever. Okay, see you tomorrow. It was not a big deal. It was all right. Yeah. But if it was Bev, there was always this, well, have you mowed the lawn? Or, it's just like, oh, God, stop it. She one time accused me of eating 16 chocolate chip cookies when she's the one that actually ate the 16 chocolate chip cookies. She was a bit of a rotund lady. It was just, again, I mean, it could have been worse. I knew people that had far worse living conditions. But again, it wasn't.
That was us.
Well, yeah.
But, it's not a, I don't say it like that in like a Wowies movie type thing. Like I said, you take the bad with the good in any situation because it didn't define who I was, because certainly I could have taken different paths and not even be sitting here and having this conversation with Dave right now. Totally different path. And that, because I was exposed to a lot of that shit. And yeah, as rough as it was, there's also a lot of good that you take with it. Like, we've shared the stories where we've lived close enough to the Massachusetts border to where we would walk up to the video rental place every Friday night and stack ourselves up with VHS tapes. And we'd be able to get horror movies because one of the things that we did for the guy who owned the shop was put the tapes away for him. So whatever we would put away for him, he'd be like, okay, that's crediting you in one movie. Go get whatever you want to get. That's
nice. So, that's very nice. Yeah, no, look, like I said earlier, I mean, you should never be ashamed of, I mean, look, if you're a piece of shit human being, which obviously you're not, but if you are a horrible person today as an adult, well, yeah, that's on you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you were born and it's, listen, you've often told me about how hard, your mom worked and your dad and things. It's a matter of circumstance. I mean, everybody, it's a situation that certainly was out of your control. I mean, you have, it's not like pre-birth, we get to choose who we're born or, the circumstances of how we're born or our life or anything like that. So you have nothing to be ashamed of. And certainly now who you are and how successful you are and where you are now, I think is a great testament to the maturity that you've been able to gain over the years. And I think that's great, and
it's like what I
mean,
was
look where you're living right now,
too.
Like the room behind you there, the house you have, it's great.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. Like, I would never wish those circumstances on anyone. You know what I mean? To know what it's like to sit there and, have your teacher tell you like, okay, Anthony, go down to the office so that you can look through the lost and found and find a winter fucking coat. You know what I mean? Because my parents couldn't afford to get me one. Like, that's not, I would never wish that upon any fucking kid
100%.
To go through that. Or like I said, going to friends' houses to get a meal or whatever, or something like that. It just a lot of tough times back in the day. But again, surrounded by, I will I will say this till the day that I die, surrounded by a group of friends who would have done anything. Mm-hmm. I've never experienced anything like that again in my life with a group of people. Yeah. And definitely not today, because today we've become so self-absorbed and so self-centered as a society that we don't look out for each other like that. Yeah. And in our group of friends, we looked out for each other. We had each other's backs, and you couldn't infiltrate us. If you tried to, you were going to get hurt.
That's right.
But we'll certainly fight each other, which is what we did a lot, but that's how family was. And we were like a family. We were like a big
100%
friends who were a family.
Yeah. I know somebody who, again, I won't say their name because obviously I don't know if they want, this out there. But I'll just say, we'll just call them, I don't know, we'll call them, Steve. Let's just call him Steve. So I had a friend named Steve, and he had a very, very difficult home life with the parental situation, the Children's Aid Society situation, just a ton of a very difficult home life. And I was one of those friends that was there thick and thin and through it all. And it didn't matter, it didn't matter because I loved him, and who he was and how, we got along and all that kind of stuff. But I remember one time when, again, we'll call him Steve, when he asked if he could spend Christmas or a week at Christmas at my place because his family had lost all their furniture. And the only way that he was going to be able to sleep there is if I think it was it was something to do with the fact that he's like, well, I could sleep on, I think one of his parents or something had just very tacky said, very, very disrespectfully said, well, you can sleep on the dining room table. We still have that here, like just something so ridiculous like that. So I said, no, you're not going to do that. So, we got out a cot for him and things like that. And he spent a week at my place over Christmas. So, again, I knew a few people that had very difficult situations like that. And it never, I really liked them. I liked who they were and they've since gone on to do, well as well. So I totally, I get it. I respect it 100%.
It's just unfortunate when I see some of my friends on social media now, some of them who are still living in the area and seeing just, certain decisions, that they couldn't, again, my saving grace was when I got into the new school system, when I left that town in my sophomore year. And this school system is what the definition of what teachers should be doing with kids. They didn't just take me in, put me in classrooms. Like, they figured out what my talents were. They utilized my talents. They put me into the photography classes, the video classes. And they were building that confidence back within myself to a point to where I was able to graduate. Because if I didn't go into that school system, and if they didn't really take all that energy that, and figure out what my strengths were as a student is the best way I can describe it, rather than just focusing on, okay, well, here's your math class, here's your English class, here's your science class, so on and so forth. And, they're like, no, we're going to, and they had a great photography program. They had a great videography program. They put me in charge of all we had a local broadcast connection with our local cable company. So I would be in charge of putting all the concerts and the plays on live on the local broadcast, in charge of the kids who were going to be filming the cameras, talking to them as the onstage director, camera one, camera two, so on and so forth. So like, they really groomed me with responsibilities. Right. You know what I mean? My oceanography teacher, instead of giving me tests the same way that she would give the other kids tests, she would have me do projects with the fish tanks and actually work with the fish, because I couldn't take tests. Anytime when I was in a time situation for test taking, I would fail. My brain would totally freeze. But if she brought me into a back room and okay, that sounds bad. If she brought me in the back room where the fish tanks were, I'd say, hey, can you help me out with the, whatever, the freshwater fish and all that stuff.
Yeah.
She started asking me questions that were related to the test.
Right.
And that's how she would do it for me,
For sure.
And so I give that school system a lot of credit because that's what teachers should be doing is figuring instead of giving, because the other town where I was getting into trouble constantly, they had written me off. They had pretty much, literally, like they had told my parents in like one final meeting, like in my freshman year that your son's a dropout. He's done, we're done with him in a freshman, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, whereas South Windsor, which was the new town I moved into with my father, they took me in and they were like, okay, we see his past, we see the grades, we see the struggles, we see everything he's gotten into, the arrests and the fights and all that shit. So they were like, okay, he likes photography. He's, does music and all this stuff like that. So they got me connected with the art department and, the music department.
Yeah. They gave you purpose.
They gave me purpose, and through that gave me responsibilities that no other school was going to do.
Right.
And that groomed me to where I know it for a fact that groomed me into what I knew I could do and believe in myself to become what I ultimately became. Because if I kept going down what I was doing, forget it. I wouldn't.
Right now. I get it. I totally get it. I do. And, again, I was very fortunate that I didn't grow up in that environment, but, I wasn't a goody two shoes either. And I certainly wasn't an A-list student. I mean, I flunked grade 4. I nearly flunked grade 9. I had to go to summer school for both grade 9 and grade 11 because I didn't have enough credits. I was terrible at French. In the US, you guys take Spanish. Here in Canada, we take French. I was atrocious at like so bad that I actually was removed from the class. They actually felt that I thought
that's like your guy's second language.
No, it's not. It's made it seem that way. Of course, the two official. It's because Canada has two official languages, French and English, but yet Quebec is really the only province where you hear it. You do hear it in little bits and pieces of it, but anyway, that's a whole other topic. I couldn't stand French, and in Ottawa, you're right next door to Quebec, so it's a big thing there, and I just couldn't stand it. So I dropped out of French, and that was why I had to go to summer school, because in order to graduate, I was short 1 credit, and I needed to make that up. So I took a travel and tourism course in summer school, and just barely past that. I was terrible at math. I had to go to summer school for math 2 times. And I hated math. I dropped out of college. I dropped out of film school. But that was primarily because it was just the workload was just, for me, it was so insane. And so, and of course I come from a broken home. It wasn't the idyllic life. But again, it's relative. I mean, certainly it was much more, stable. I'll say was much more stable than the life that you had. And that's a reality, and that's just the way it is. But everybody's experience is relative to their own, what they're going through. I mean, I was bullied like crazy as a kid,
I wasn't necessarily bullied. It was more like bigger kids would try to start shit, and then I would, I'd fight back. I just remember half the time my boys being like, dude, he's twice your size. I wasn't going to be, a pushover.
For sure. And I didn't want to be either. I remember when,
you see the pictures of me that I shared with you. I was a scrawny little shit. For
sure. I remember when I was in the 8th grade actually. And I had walked over to the high school, because it was just down the street, to meet a friend of mine who was in the 9th grade. And even though he was a grade ahead of me and he was in the high school, we were the same age because I had flunked grade 4. So, I mean, you know what I mean? And I was surrounded by a group of bullies, and it's kind of has a really nice ending to this story. So it's a bit bittersweet. So there I am. I'm surrounded by this guy. I forget his name now. And of course he's poking fun at me and this, that, and the other, and your father this, your father that, all that kind of stuff. And then one of his, cronies, one of his sidekicks, suddenly said, hey, Corey, that was his name, Corey. Maybe he's out there still. He said, hey, Corey, he just insulted your mom. I didn't say anything about his mom. I wasn't even opening my mouth, right? Mm-hmm. But his buddies wanted him to do something, and so he looked over at me. He's like, you fucking insult my mother? I was like, no, I didn't say anything. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't say anything because you've been looking at me the whole time. You've been talking the whole time. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. And then I turn my head to look at my friend. And as I turn my head, he sucker punches me right in the face. And,
I hate getting sucker punched.
Oh, fuck. It's just...
Meet your opponent head on.
100%. Of course, I didn't see it coming, so it shocks me. I go down. My nose is bleeding all over the place. My eyes are watering. Of course, they take off, and there was a little it was next to this building, and there was like a medical, or there was a door that was open, and it had like a janitor in there, and he had some rags and things like that. He came to help me out, and which was nice, and I think the police were called. I didn't call them, but I think the people in the business called them, and they showed up, and I explained what happened and things like that. And they said, okay, well, do you think he'll be back? If you come back here on Monday, do you think he'll come back here? And I said, yeah, probably. And he, the cop asked me, do you have any idea why he would not like you or not? And I said, well, it's because my father's it's probably because my father's Earl McRae. And he said, your father's Earl McRae? I said, yes, my father's Earl McRae. I said, oh, okay. And that's why I said, it's, that usually is it. Right. It usually isn't that they don't like me. It's that they have parents who don't like my father, and that they, what I mean? It's usually that kind of thing. Right. Yeah. Anyway, so I go back, and sure enough, he shows up. And at that point, the Ottawa police show up in their cruisers. It was one or two cops, and they're all like, what's going on? And I take off, and the cops were there to handle the situation, and they gave him a warning and a tog, essentially scaring the shit out of him. And then of course I remember, and then it was like a year after that when I went to high school. I thought, I'm going to high school, I need to get myself into shape and run and work out and get cut and things like that, which I did. I started jogging 5 days a week, and I started working out with weights. My dad bought me this little weight set and things like that, and I was working that out. And of course, at that age, it's easy to put on and gain weight. I mean, you're 15 or 14, right? But I really got myself into really good shape. And when I went to school, people noticed that. Were like, wow, like, Dave, like you look great, and then I remember there was an incident where, like, I was never afraid of the guy, but now I had a bit of a growth spurt. So now we were kind of almost the same size. And I walked around this corner, and there was this guy who was upset. He was at the vending machine, and he was upset. And I said, hey man, what's wrong? And he's like, Corey Bennett. That was his name. Corey Bennett, if you're watching, you're a fucking loser. Anyway, so he said, what's that?
I said douchebag.
100%. Maybe he's a nice guy now. I mean, maybe, you let bygones be bygones. You're all kids. But at that age, you were a fucking douchebag. He might be dead. He might be dead. Corey Bennett might be dead. Anyway, so, and he probably, I don't know if he even remembers this, but so he walked off. So my friend said, Corey Bennett took my quarters. And I'm like, so then I went looking for Corey, and I found him, and I said to him, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, what the fuck are you going to do? I said, give the guy the back his quarters. And he's like, whoa. And he's backing up. He's intimidated. This is the guy that had no issues sucker punching me a year earlier. But now, I've changed the way I look. I'm a bit taller. I'm walking towards him. I'm not afraid of him at all. I'm ready for shit to go down. I said, give the kid back his fucking, I didn't say the kid. I said, Alex, I think was his name. I said, give Alex back his fucking quarters, man. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll punch you in the fucking face. He's like, oh, come on, whatever it is. Anyway, so he was backing up, and he just chucked the quarters at me. He just chuck, not like whip them at me, but he's giving them back. Right. And it was a complete submission. And I also remember it was another situation or something where it was the next day or a week later or something. He was being weird or whatever. And I happened to be close by, and I went over to him, kneeled under him, picked him up, put him on my shoulder, and placed him on top of this locker kind of thing. This is, and he didn't fucking do anything. Didn't do anything. because, I mean, obviously changing and working out and being a bit bigger obviously helped, but that sense of, he couldn't sucker punch me then, and so again, I mean, different environment, but it's high school. It's high school, and there's always going to be bullies, and people are always you can't eradicate bullies. There's always going to be bullies. We are animals, we're primates, we're tribal. It's always going to exist. I'm not saying it should exist. I'm not saying that you can't curve it and, that it's right, that it's acceptable. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, if you think you're going to get rid of bullying altogether and we're all going to live in a happy family, it's not going to happen. Especially growing up, the hormones and the cliques and the tribes and the different people and how we look and now it's just it's made even worse because of the internet and cyberbullying and things like that. When I was bullied at school, at least I could come home and get a break. Now if you're bullied on the internet and you're online, it's these poor kids just don't get a break. It's just there everywhere all the time. And it's much harder to pinpoint now, I think too. So, I mean, I think
that's also why I look at that time in my life. It makes you tough. It really does when you live in that type of environment. My brother reminded me of a situation too, when there was one night, it was a Friday night or Saturday night, whatever it was. And Shannon and my other sister's friend, her Gina, they were over. My sister's room was downstairs and we had a basement. So I hung out, Shannon was down there. So I was hanging out with Shannon and, having a good night, whatever. We were watching horror movies. I'm confident in that because that's usually what we would do. And, me and Shannon fell asleep on the couch. Felicia and Gina fell asleep on the bed. And we woke up the next morning and we go upstairs and my brother's fucking crying. We had been robbed while we were in the middle.
Wow.
Sleeping in the middle of the night. So my brother's in the living room sleeping on the couch. And right next to the couch we had two TVs. We had the main TV that was part of the console. That's a good story on the two TVs in a second. I'll get to that. And then we had a TV for my brother's gaming area for his Sega Genesis. And in the middle of the night, somebody broke in the house when my brother's sleeping right there. My mom's sleeping in the room and stole the Sega Genesis and all the games. And now the thing of that is that I felt bad for my brother and my mom because, like I said, we weren't well off. And the fact that my mom, I think with the help of my aunt and uncle, got my brother that gaming system. And to just know that people had the environment that we were living in was so bad that people would break into your house in the middle of your night.
You felt violent
while you're there sleeping.
Yes.
You know what I mean? At your most vulnerable, state and rob you, and could have been obviously a whole hell of a lot worse. But it does, it makes you,
for sure.
2020, it makes you stronger too. On the flip side of it, it makes you, so when people come at you and, and I've had like threatening messages and, all that stuff, like since I've been doing like social media,
brings you back.
It's not even that. It's like, there's nothing you're going to do to me to scare me because of the environments that I've lived in. You know what I mean? There's nothing someone's going to tell me or say to me that's going to make me feel threatened because I've lived through a hell of a lot worse.
I don't condone bullying, obviously, right? I don't think, I certainly don't condone bullying, but if these bullies, which are now, they're now called trolls now, really. I mean, that's what a troll is. It's bullying. It's a certain type of, bullying. I mean, these people that think they get online and they're, that's what the fuck is that? Are you kidding me? If there's one good thing, listen, of course he had no choice because the internet didn't exist. But if there's one thing I can say about good old Corey Bennett, I can certainly say that, he grew up at a time when you did that damn bullying in person, God damn it, and you loved it. You took that risk and you bullied kids and you let the chips fall where they. Bullying online is so cheap. It's so, there's no repercussions. There's no consequences. Like Mike Tyson said,
everyone's
bullying,
got a plan till they get hit.
Well, that too, but he also, but there's a variation of that where he said bullying has made it, the internet has made it far too easy for people to act like fucking jackasses and not get punched in the face. I mean, if Corey was, the reason why he tossed those quarters back to me, because him getting fucking clocked in the face by a guy who was in really good shape at that time, was a very real reality. He was about to get fucking decked through the fucking brick wall, into the cafeteria. It was very real. That was about to happen, and I was ready to do it, especially because I had a score to settle with the guy that sucker punched me, a year earlier. I'm ready to do it. That's a very real thing. That's not gonna, what the hell's gonna happen to you when you're bullying online? Nothing. No. So these trolls and bullies that do this shit online, give me a break. Give me a break. Now, I'm not saying that it is not effective and it is not awful, but I just think it's so from a certain point of view, it's like, well, what, you think you're tough? You think that's tough?
Yeah. That's
really?
What I'm saying.
You think that's tough? Fucking walk out and do that on the street. Fuck.
That's what I'm saying. When you grow up in a certain environment, that's a very wild environment.
Yeah.
You almost become immune to anything that, especially when it comes to online shit, because then it's just words, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which in retrospect, I probably should have taken that to heart earlier.
Keep your wife's name. No, my wife's name out of your fucking mouth.
I shouldn't have gotten so salty earlier this evening. But what I am talking about, that situation, growing up and you're being mocked about it. And I'm like, no, dude, it's not anything to laugh about. You know what I mean? It's not anything to make fun of. And I wouldn't never ever wish that upon anyone. I would never in a million years would never want that any kid to go through that. Cause it's not, like I said, the friends that I had were great fucking friends.
Absolutely.
They to this day, they obviously were a big part of getting me through it.
Yeah.
Cause it could have gone so many different directions.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though you are in a bad environment and you're surrounded by, a lot of things that are happening. At the same time, you're also surrounded by a core of people who are doing everything they can to protect you in that environment.
Exactly. And, to reiterate again, I don't think anybody in the chat room was mocking you. I think it was,
I get that.
They were poking fun at the irony of,
I got it.
No, it's okay. It's because I gave them because last week when you said, hey, dude, I got some crazy funny stories that I got to tell. And I was like, oh, that's
crazy.
Awesome. No, it is. It certainly is. Right. But I took it to me, but I didn't, and then of course I make the thumbnail that says, come and share with your funny stories. Right. And then everybody in the chat just kind of going, wow, this is getting kind of heavy, whatever. But look, the chat room loves you. They respect it. There's probably a lot listen, nobody knows you, right? I mean, people know us a little bit. They know the on-screen persona of what we put here in front of it. But,
they know me now in life too. That's
sure,
the thing. They don't know.
Right.
Everything in between.
But even now they don't know us. There's lots of things that our, viewers don't know about me, my day-to-day life, who I talk to, my fears, my worries, my insecurities, my love, my passions. There's lots of things that people don't know. They just know, hey folks, how you doing, Dave? I mean, and that is really me. It is really me, but it's a part of me. It's a part of me. It's not, and it's a big part of me, but it's not the whole me, right? So it's totally understandable. And it really comes down to the thumbnail that I made, right? With two big, I mean, you saw it, two big, gigantic laughing emojis,
Well, because the funny thing is, when I talk about it with my brother or my sister, I don't really talk to my sister that much anymore, but when we do talk and when we talk about those situations, we laugh about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I just think, but we're laughing about it, not in the sense it's funny. We're laughing about it because it's fucking crazy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
The fact that was our reality, it's what?
I know.
What the fuck, but at the end of the day, yeah.
Well, let me tell you this funny one. So I have another funny one. And I've told this before, but it's kind of funny. So, and it's Halloween related. So I think it's kind of funny and it's worth sharing. So when I got too old to trick or treat, I still wanted to partake in
thing.
Well, yeah, I know. But
Throw
I
on
wanted
the Michael mask. There's no such thing.
I wanted to partake in Halloween. So what Bruce and I did is we would put on a little Halloween show on the front lawn of my house. So we would even go and rent like a fog machine, and we went to this DJ company and rented like lights and stuff, and we put lights up. We'd make like little sets and stuff. We got hay barrels this one time and put like little like we actually, and of course I would dress up as Michael Myers. I had the awful
Don Post mask.
Oh yeah, awful. I mean it, and it wasn't
legendary mask.
It was, and it wasn't even called a Michael Myers mask. It was because they didn't have the rights.
What was it called?
It's called like the White Mask or the White
something
Face,
like that. Yeah,
or something.
Yeah,
or Mr. White Face.
It wasn't called the Halloween, but that was our Halloween.
Well, you knew what it was supposed to be. You knew who it was supposed to be. But I went
brown hair.
I know, big brown eyebrows. When I went to, I purchased it at Malabar's costume shop on Merivale Road in Ottawa, Ontario. I don't know if the shop is still there or not. I think Malabar's still exists because there was even a location in Toronto. But anyway, I went in there 1 October 94, I think it was, and I saw it up on the shelf up there. I'm like, oh, and of course at that time we have nothing to compare it to, right? At that, like I look at it now, I look at photos of me in that mask now, and I'm like, it's dreadful. It's fucking dread. It looks nothing like Michael. I mean, you kind of know,
but to us,
but at that time, it was like, whoa, that's it. That's the Michael Myers mask. And of course, I think it was like $60. And so I saved up a little bit. I think maybe my dad helped me and I bought it and all that kind of stuff. And we were going to put on this show. And Bruce dressed up as a number of different things throughout one year he was Freddy Krueger, and the next year he was like some just like random alien or something. Anyways, I was Michael Myers every year. And right from like 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 even, no, not 99. I was already in college. But we would do all that. And one of my pet peeves, and it's been my pet peeve even when I got old. When I lived north of Toronto, we did a little thing like this, myself and Bruce. Keep
going. People want to see the mask, and I'm going to show it. I got it. I'm going to show it to them. Hank, keep going. Tell them the story.
When we were in our 30s, and so one of the things that Bruce and I, so we. I lost my train of thought there. I didn't realize that Tony was going to cut out. So one of the things that has always bothered me, okay, as somebody, when it comes to trick-or-treating, I get it. There's always the bigger teenagers that come along, and I get that. I understand that. But one of the things that has always bothered me, it just bothers me, that if you're going to go fucking trick-or-treating, make an effort. Don't just show up in the clothes you wore to school that day with a baseball cap and a pillowcase. I don't want to give you fucking candy. And I've denied people. I have. I've denied 17 and 18-year-old kids. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. Fucking
it's a little worth because it's like 30 years old. It's ripped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is like, he's not kidding. Like, but terrible. Again, to Dave and I, the young kid in us, this was everything. I mean, it really this is all we had access to.
The funny thing is that they still sell masks that look similar to that today.
Similar,
which is
but
just
not
dreadful.
quite like it.
Yeah. It was just dreadful. And so I wish I had a photo of mine somewhere. I wonder if I can get...
I've shared photos of me dressed in this mask when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like at my dad's house on Halloween or my grandparents' house.
Let me just see. Hang on a sec. I'll be right back. Hang on 1 second here. I want to see if I can... There's a photo. I think I have a photo of it. Hang on.
Yeah, this... what the hell? Like he said, man, back in the day when we were kids, this mask was everything. My friends loved me wearing this mask around Halloween. We would play hide and seek with me wearing this mask and scaring people. And it was a creepy mask in the dark. You know what I mean? Like because of the white face.
So here I am. There I am. I don't know if you can see that. Wait, there we go. That's me right there.
Bring it over this way.
Over this way? Wait.
More. Now pull back on it a little bit because it's out of focus. There we go.
There it is. That's me.
There we go.
That's me. That's me in the hallway of my house. I have a bag of chips there.
How white the face
so,
was.
And your eyes were so like, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. So anyway, so one of my pet peeves, like I said, is older kids, 16, 17, 18, the older kids coming to the door. They're not dressed in anything. They just have the school clothes on, or they have like their football jersey on. I'm a football player. Fuck off. And they have the little, and listen, I get it. Not everybody feels the same way as I do, but you know what? I take Halloween very seriously. And if you're going to come to my door, at least put on a fucking mask, do something, show that you put an effort into it. So there were these kids, older kids, probably around, they might have even been older than me at the time that I was doing this. And I denied them candy. I said, no. And they're like, what? No, what do you mean? I said, you're not dressed up. And they're like, well, dressed up. I'm dressed up. And then of course you get like the little guy saying, yeah, I'm dressed up as a school student. You get like, they're all kind of, those kids. I was like, yeah, tell them, Bob, tell them. Yeah, well, I'm a football player. Yeah. Those fuck want to punch in the fucking face. Anyway, so those kids. And I'm like, no. And I was like, no, get get the fuck out of here. And I said that too. And like, eventually I'm like, just get the fuck out of here, And so they left, or no, they wouldn't leave. Like, no, we're just going to stay here. We're going to fucking stay here by your students or whatever, this kind of stuff. So I said, okay, fine. Well, I'm just going to go get the chainsaw then. It's so fun. Like as if a kid's going to come out with a chainsaw, whatever. And they're like, okay. Sure. So I go into the back. We have this gate. I go into the back. I shut the door. I go into my garage, which is right there, and I start up my lawnmower, which obviously is not a chainsaw, but it's a gas lawnmower. So when you're going like, for whatever reason, because I have clearly, it sounds on any other day of the year, it sounds like a lawnmower. It doesn't sound like a chainsaw. But because I planted that image in their minds, and because I said, well, I'm going to go get the chainsaw, for whatever reason, me starting that up, all I hear from the front is, fucking chainsaw, run, holy fuck! And they start taking off. And of course, now I have it just running in the backyard. And I open the gate and I see them like taking off down the street. And they're like, the fuck you, you don't have to get a chainsaw. We're really serious. Like, well, you don't have to go get it. Like, what the hell? And I'm just like, yeah, that's fucking right, you pieces of fucking shit. It was great. All because they just showed up in the clothes they wore to school that day with a pillowcase. I'm like, get out of here. This is Halloween, man. This is Halloween.
Our neighborhood, as bad as it became, living there, Halloween was a lot of fun, man. Kids would always be dressed up. We go out trick-or-treating until 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Groups of friends. Obviously, we were with our group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
I told you about Cabbage Night. I don't know, I don't know how that even got started. I don't know why it was called Cabbage Night. But it was always fun because we would do, Cabbage Night the night before Halloween, TP bunch of people's houses, have the egg war, destroy pumpkins in the road and whatnot. And then the following night is Halloween. You're going out trick-or-treating with your friends again after, having this, crazy night before with Cabbage Night. But kids were always on point with their costumes. You never saw anyone really not that I really recall. The only thing I do remember is we did egg one person's house because he was a dentist and he gave us toothbrushes. So we were like, okay, bro. Okay, dude.
I got you.
We got to give us toothbrushes. Yeah. So later on that night, we were like, you're going to wake up to a big surprise in the morning.
What was the candy that you love to eat the most? For me, it's like...
To this day, it's the same. It's Kit Kats or Reese's Pieces. It's one or the other.
Reese's Pieces, Buttercups,
those are my two go-to. My mom, she would take the Smarties from us because she loved the Smarties. She was a big fan of that.
I like Smarties too.
We would get, like I said, man, we would get a total of like
3 to
4
Smarties
pillowcases.
You're talking, okay, what I'm talking about a different Smarties, because Smarties in
Smarties
the US,
were like these round circle things, sweet things.
Yeah,
like that.
those
like,
those are called Rockets here.
Oh, really?
Those are called Rockets. Smarties for us is it's like an M&M. It's a chocolate candy coated candy. I believe they have
Okay.
Smarties in the UK, the same kind that we have, I believe. But yeah, so when I think of Smarties, I think of the. I can probably bring up an image. I think I've done this before, actually. Smarties, Nestle Smarties. So this is Smarties. There, yeah, I see from the US. Yeah, this is Smarties.
Yeah, my mom loved those.
Hang on a sec here. Dun, dun, dun. And then let me see if I can. Rockets candy. There we are. Yep. So, and then there's. Okay, so let me just. Okay, so for my American friends who may not know, this is what Smarties are for us here in Canada, and I believe the UK, although I stand to be corrected. This is Smarties. Let me know when that pops up on the screen. There we are.
I know there's like a delay.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. Let me know when you see that. Let me know when you see that, people.
Yeah, man, we would get, like I said, 3 or 4 pillowcases filled because
is it up there yet?
It's still not up yet. I don't know how big the delay is, but I know it's a few. There it is. Yeah, it's not the same, but yeah, no. I've seen those before.
You've seen those before. Yeah. So that's Smarties here, and then
they're called something else, I think, down here.
Are they?
Yeah.
So this
I've seen them.
And then this is what we call rockets. Let me just get that other one out of there. What is it? Hang on a sec here. Oh, goodness sakes. Oh, there we go. So you call those Smarties. We call them rockets. Should be up on the screen in a minute. Is it up there for you?
It'll probably be up there and just Yep, that's it. That was our version of Smarties.
Yep. We call them rockets.
She loved those, man. She loved those.
They're great. I fucking love them. They are great.
I really, with all the candy, we'd have so much candy left over, but they'd be there till Christmas. And my mom ended up having to throw away more than half of it. But yeah, I pretty much went through, the peanut butter cups and the Kit Kats, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, in hindsight, I think about all the freaking sugar that we ate and drank as kids.
I know.
We used to get those like cheap, everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you've lived on food stamps, you get the cheap off-brand 3-liter cola, fruit punch, and the fruit punch had such a weird taste to it. It didn't even taste like fruit punch. It tasted like they put alcohol in it.
Do they have? So you would also get little tiny bags of chips in bags too, right? Like they'd hand out little bags of chips sometimes. Would they little salt and vinegar chips or whatever? No.
Oh, you mean for Halloween?
Yeah. Would you get little bags of chips, Doritos, little bag of Doritos, or little bag?
The only off thing I ever remember getting was the toothbrush, and then I just remember we ate the shit out of that house.
Because we would get tiny little bags of chips, mini bags of Doritos or salt and vinegar or just regular or sour cream and onion. They sell them up here, big boxes of mini bags of chips that you can also include in with your Reese's Pieces or your candy and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that they have, I don't think they have this in the States because it's a Canadian company. Obviously, you guys have Cheetos in the States, or, we kind of call them, Cheesies, Chester Cheetah. We have them up here as well. We have Chester Cheetah and Cheetos up here as well.
Yeah, I can't remember the off-brand that we would get. Because everything we got was on the off. I mean, unless we went to local Derry Mart and we would get the name brand stuff like a bag of Doritos or a bag of chips. But I'm talking what my mom would get us would be the off-brand. It would be the store brand version of the Ruffles chips or the Doritos chips, because the store that she shopped at in that town was called Edwards. So it might even have been that was the name, but it was their version of the chip that you're talking about, Cheetos or Doritos. Right.
Okay. Well, there is a Canadian
Ruffles.
There's a Canadian version. And again, we get the Cheetos up here as well. It's all over the place. They're good. I love them. But there's a Canadian version, which I don't know if you get in the States. which I think it's delicious. Bruce doesn't like it, but I like it. And my girlfriend really likes it as well. And they are actually called Cheesies, but the brand name is Hawkins, like Stranger Things, like the town, Hawkins. It's called Hawkins Cheesies.
Hawkins like in Halloween?
Hawkins like in Halloween? Yes, yes. So this is what Hawkins Cheesies look like. And they're like Cheetos, but they're fatter. And they're crunchier. And oh man, are they good. They are addictive as fuck. They're addictive as fuck. So this is what Hawkins Cheesies look like. And they are fatter and cheesier and really addictive and terrible for you, but they are so good. They are so good. I've just uploaded the image, so there'll be a delay here, but it'll pop up. Should pop up in a second here for you. This is Hawkins Cheesies. Look at that. You can see a little Canadian flag there. And the French. You see the French on there as well. That's so funny. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, Hawkins Cheesies. And man, they are good. Whenever
you gotta send me a bag.
Oh, I should. You should. I totally should. I haven't had them in a little bit, I think since the fall, but every now and then, and my girlfriend loves them. Like we both
big. Do they come in big bags? Or like, is it
no,
are they like
not
small?
They're more like a medium-sized bag. Oh, you can't see me. Hang on a sec. Let me move the.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell the size.
They're more kind of like this, like a medium-sized bag. But you can also go to the grocery store and you can buy like a bulk where you get like a bunch of them, and you can buy tiny ones, like tiny bags like this that have like, I don't know,
like Lunchables for lunch bags, right?
Right. It's got like 10 cheesies in it or something, right? And those are the ones that they would hand out at Halloween time, as a part of, you put a bunch of stuff in it. And, they're so good. They're fat. The cheese are really, and you go, oh, it's so, like, how the Cheetos are thin, right? They're long and thin, and they're good. Well, imagine like a bunch of like 3 or 4 of those together, and it's like one cheesy. Like that's what Hawkins Cheesies are like. And oh, it's so good. It's so cheesy. And like I said, my girlfriend loves it. We will but they're so addictive. So whenever we're at the grocery store or at 7-Eleven or wherever, and we know we're gonna watch a couple movies or something, we're always we're in the chip aisle and we're like, should we get some Hawkins cheese? Oh no, maybe because we know it's so hard to get a bag and not finish it, and we're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm a big Dorito guy as well. She's not really into Doritos, but I love Doritos. So whenever there's Doritos or Hawkins Cheesies around, I gotta like leave the room. Like it's just so addictive. So yeah, Hawkins Cheesies are amazing. I will definitely have to send you back.
Our go-to candies, I remember that we were given as kids for trick-or-treating, the Reese's, Kit Kat, almonds and Mounds.
Yep.
Mounds. I think I'm saying that right. Almond Joy in Mounds. They're basically like the same, but they're different. One has almonds in it and the other is just plain. One's red, one's blue.
What's that one that is it's like the toffee, and it's got like the Halloween.
Yes,
candy.
I hated those.
So bad.
Anytime we got those, we were like, fuck.
Everybody hated them. Do they still sell them?
The person who gave it out was doing that shit on purpose because
I know
that was getting tossed. You know what I mean? Like,
everybody
we were not gonna eat it.
Everybody hated them. I never had them. Like, I don't understand. I tried them.
It smelled like coffee, right? Or something.
Like I tried them, but like there's one thing to get
a taffy thing to it. Too.
Yes. There's one thing to get like one of those little square toffees or taffy, whatever you want to call it, right? Like little square ones you put it in your mouth. It's chewy, gets stuck to your teeth a little, not a bit, but it was softer. Those candy ones you got to unwind. They're like hard as rocks.
I know. Like you break your teeth on those things, man.
I don't have any kids. I live in a neighborhood where there's not a lot of kids, so Halloween's, I don't know if they still sell them, but I'm sure they do. It's like a staple. It's like they keep making them just to laugh at you. But so come this September, when all the Halloween shit comes back into the stores, I'm going to make a mental note to go and have a look and see if they still sell that shit. Because, it was just, you're there and you see kids wanting to enjoy it. They're like, it's like they can't enjoy that. It's just terrible. Oh, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, I remember the last year we trick or treated. That's always like the most downer, year when you're too old. It's when I moved from from living with my mom to living with my dad and switching towns.
Yeah.
And my sister came for a very brief period until she ended up going back to my mom's, because my sister and my father did not get along, and they still don't get along to this day. I remember me and my sister were out there. I might have been 15. Maybe 15 going on, because I turned 13 in 6th grade, 14, 7th grade, 5th grade. So I was like 16 at the time, because we're talking sophomore year when I moved and switched towns. And it's always like a pisser when you're just like, like it's done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're out there. I remember being out there with my sister, because she was 2 years younger than me. So she's only 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And like she's having fun ish. And my sister would have kept going trick-or-treating until she was in her 30s. Because she loved it. She loved trick-or-treating.
Right.
She did. She loved it. But the problem is you just kind of knew.
Right.
And then when I started looking back, I remember the year before that, before I moved and switched towns, we dressed up, but we all met in a separate, I think I might have even shared this story. We walked over to this area, which if I had to define to be the perfect place to make a Friday the 13th movie, the neighborhood was called Shaker Pines. It was on a lake, and you had all these small little cottage homes. Actually, I would personally, it's my perfect one of my perfect living situations. I would love to live in a small community or neighborhood like that.
Right.
All these little, small, narrow fucking roads with all these little cottages on it. And so we all decided to go over there because we had friends over there. My friend Allison, who was harassed by that dude that I beat up 3 times through junior high, because he just never learned his fucking lesson. And so anyways, we met at her house, and we went to like 1 or 2 houses to actually physically trick or treat, but spend the rest of the night just walking around the fucking neighborhood. I was wearing the Michael mask. I was jumping in and out of bushes, scaring my friends and shit like that.
Yeah.
That was probably my last fun Halloween night, even though we weren't really trick-or-treating because, we're like, this is our freshman year of high school. So we're like 15 years old.
Yeah.
But it's at least a good swan song. I wish I had stopped it there and didn't try to do one more year, because that was a good way to go out, just having fun with your friends and bullshitting around. But my junior high years, those were fun. Those were just, having a blast. Coming back and watching like Halloween 2 and Halloween 4 on VHS and all that stuff, with your friends, because we'd always do trick-or-treating. And then even if it was a school night, because, we were, that's just how it was. Even if it was a school night, we would go trick-or-treating, and then a select group of friends would come back over and we would watch scary movies.
Totally. My last year trick-or-treating was 93. I was 14. And that was the last year that I actually trick-or-treated. And I don't really remember much about it. I don't remember much of it. But I do remember sitting on the sidewalk and having a moment where I'm thinking to myself, this is my last year.
This is it.
Yeah. Because I almost
sucks.
Well, I almost felt too old to be going to the door. And I think it's because you're maturing, and you kind of like, I mean, listen, there are kids that are 17 that show up in, their day clothes that have no shame. But for whatever reason, I just felt like I was too old. I don't know. And then
the shitty part is that for us at that age, right, we're caught in the middle of, we're too old to trick or treat, but we're too young to be invited to high school Halloween parties.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
like,
that's
we're
why
stuck in the middle of this. Like, fuck, we can't do anything for 100%.
But that's why I turned the very next year in '94. I turned into the putting the kids that put the house that put the Halloween show. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I did that for 5 straight years: 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. Nice. And then I left.
I wish I did that. I never, I did little things like we would put pumpkins out, or, I do that now. I'll put pumpkins, mums, but I never did like what you described, like do the Halloween. I always wanted to do that, but I never did. And then by the time, I would have had any energy to do that, I was, starting to go to high school parties on Halloween night. And to be honest with you, they were lame. They're nothing like the movies. Halloween high school parties
They are.
I've
been to a couple of college ones.
It's stupid. It really is. No one's dressed up. Yeah. So forget that. And I remember that was the beginning that I also started to notice people were not even in high school. Like I still dressed up in high school. I wore this fucking mask till the day I fucking graduated. Every year for Halloween, I would throw on the Michael mask and dress up and go to school like that. My friends got a kick out of it. No matter what school system I was in, people got a kick out of me wearing it. And I've got pictures of me in high school. I've shared with it on Instagram, shots with my friends dressed up, but I began to notice not a lot of people dressed up for Halloween in high school. I was in one of the small categories of kids you're young teens or whatever that still did it. And we had teachers that would do it as well too, that would get into the spirit of it and dress up and whatnot. Now I don't even know what it's like in the school systems. I don't know if I don't know either. Do it. I don't know if it's, the thing. I've got, obviously, where is it? I know you did this, dude. I know you did this. I know for a fact you did this because we're the same age and these costumes were popular. That's me and my sister on Halloween night. That's the Superman costume. My sister's Raggedy Ann. Do you remember those plastic with the white
string? Yes. Always string, would break off.
I can still smell it to this day.
Yes. I had a He-Man one, a Skeletor one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were dreadful. And the actual costume was like plastic. It was like this it was plastic kind of
plastic thing. And I could smell it, still. Yeah. As bad as this was, it's still, it's the kids were wearing it.
It's an era. It's an era for sure. Listen, we've hit the 2-hour mark. We should get to the some
chats.
Questions here. Yeah, this is, but this has been good. This has been an interesting discussion, right?
Therapy session.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It got serious. It got light. It got fun. It's real, right? It's real in the moment. Conversations. And like I said, I'll leave the thumbnail up because maybe it's kind of funny and people. Whatever.
Well, like I said, in hindsight, yes. When I talk, I think when talking about it with a group of strangers for this first time, I was probably on the bit of a defensive mode.
Right. I understand.
I haven't talked about this with it, like with
for
you.
Sure.
I haven't talked about this with people in the chat room.
For sure.
When I'm talking about it with my brother and my sister, or even with some of the friends that I'm still friends with online, it's different because we've lived it. You know what I mean?
100%.
We lived it. We went through it. So it's like, and I apologize for that because I should have not gotten so defensive, but it is what it is.
No, it's totally. Listen, man, it's understandable. I don't think anybody took it personally. I just knew that really at the end of the day, it has to do with my thumbnail because I was under the impression that we would be talking about different things out of the gate. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's okay that we talked about this. It's like I said, it's real. It's a side of you that people don't know. They've got to know a side of who you are, as a person. And there's people out there right now, no doubt, watching maybe live right now. There's still 105 people in the chat room. There was 130 at one point,
way more than I expected.
Yeah. And maybe there's going to be people watching after the fact who have been through it, who maybe
can relate,
who are still going through it, or even people like me that maybe grew up in better circumstances, but had friends that were going through it. And so understand by association, and so, listen, everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a story to tell. So, I appreciate you being so open and honest about it. And hopefully some people found at least some of my silly.
I gotta have you and Bruce direct my story. Take all these stories and turn it into a movie.
There it is. Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? It might be interesting. It's like
it'd be a rough movie to watch. It really would. It would
for sure.
But it also ends on a good note too.
For sure. Yeah.
Because of where we're all at now.
That's right. That's right. So super chat from Brianne Ivanitsky, I think is how you say it again. Sends in $10. Thank you, Brianne. Says, hey Dave, hope you are well. I am, thank you. Hope you are too. Love your channel, thank you. Where can I purchase a copy of It's Me Billy on Blu-ray? Thank you. You're the best podcaster out there. Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm glad that you think so. That's amazing. Nowhere at the moment, Brianne. We don't have copies for sale at the moment. We do have several leftover copies, but they're for specific reasons, and so we don't have any that we are selling at the moment. That doesn't mean never. It just means right now. So if and when copies do become available, obviously I will let everybody know. Happy Sanjo sends in $5, says, came in smiling, 5 minutes of Tony's childhood, and now I am sad and thinking about my shitty childhood. Laugh out loud, tragic, joking, of course. Yeah, no, that's okay, Happy. Hey, it happens, right? Again, blame me. I'm the one that put up the big fat emojis laughing. Happy Sanjo follows up and says, Tony and funny stories. Tony, so I grew up in a really bad heroin area. He's just poking fun at the expectation, like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. Holy shit. But it's real, right? It's real. I mean, what you grew up in and that area is real. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
Totally.
it's just it's unfortunate that there are kids that I grew up with who have died either from ODing on heroin or being dealers and getting shot and killed,
right?
Or who are in prison. I whatever entity or spiritual thing you believe in, I definitely thank my blessings every day that things happen for a reason, and where I ended up in the end. In the school system that I ended up in that really changed the trajectory that I was going on was a big part in carving out, me becoming more of a responsible person
for sure.
Life and,
100%
becoming what I, ultimately became, because otherwise it could have gone way worse.
Could not agree more. You have nothing to be ashamed of and everything to be proud of. HT, also known as Dominic St. Clair, sends in $5, says, here's a funny story. I dressed up as a cop last week, pretending to be an officer in Los Angeles. I went into a Russian bakery and was pied in the face. Are you being serious? Or are you being serious? I don't know if you're being serious or if you're just joking.
Or joking.
I have no idea. If that's true, that's kind of, why would you do that? I don't know why you'd do that. But okay. Hey, you know what? To each their own, Happy Sanjo sends in, follows another $2, says, Dave ordered a stripper, but got Mrs. Doubtfire. That is basically, she was, and listen, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But this was not the stripper that anybody would have wanted to come to the door. This was not a stripper. This was where on the flip side, every boy would love to go to Lisa's house who lived in my neighborhood.
There you go. You know what I mean? It's like
100%. She was so, of course you can't say these things now because it's not very PC, but the old saying where she hit the ugly branch and everything on the way down. Yeah. And she's like, but it's also because she's 60, and we're 18. Keep that in mind. We're 18. I mean, somebody 30 is ancient to us. If a 30-year-old had showed up, we probably would have been like, oh my God, you're old. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's when grandma shows up, it's like, what the hell is going on? And she was ready to go ahead. She was right. Well, I guess I can do you one at a time.
The one thing I will say is I'm sort of glad social media and technology wasn't where it's at, because most of what I have are just like, I don't know if this has happened to you as you've gotten older or if anyone else in the chat room can relate to this, but I can remember a lot of those things. But the older I get, it's becoming more like still images. Yeah, like I can remember things, but I can't remember things happening. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's like
screen captures.
Yeah, it's like the further away I get from it, it's like I remember. I could describe the town. I could describe the house. It's all the houses because they were pretty much they were all these small little houses that were designed the same. But as far as like certain things happening, like certain things that I did, it's like I can't remember the exact details of it like I used to be able to, because I'm the further away from it. It's just, so I don't know if that happened to you, if that's happened to you.
It does. I have a very, I've always had a really good memory, especially for dates and things like that. But I think it's like anything.
Dates, forget about it. I couldn't know.
Yeah. Like I'm for whatever reason, I'm very good with dates. And I don't intentionally try to remember it. It's just, I am. But that being said, the further, we move away from it. Although I will say that out of all my friends, I'm the one that remembers the most. I remember the most details. Often my friends will turn to me to have me help fill in the gaps. But there's things I forget about now. There's certain things that there's even, high school people that I forget their names now.
I think because so much extreme shit happened that my memories are only of the extreme shit.
Mhm.
Whereas a lot of because there was a lot of normalcy that went on too.
Sure.
It wasn't
Yeah.
always like, something, crazy happening.
Right.
I wasn't always getting into fights, it was just, those just stick out because it's so extreme.
Right.
Being robbed in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, that's not something you're going to forget because it's
extreme.
such an extreme thing happening.
That's right.
Yeah, I can't. Never mind. I was going to say something.
No, I get it. I'm not
going to open up that door.
All right, no problem. Riker H sends in $5 and says, in Rosemary's Baby, halfway through the film, Mia Farrow cuts her hair and her husband and the elders hate it. Correct. Why did demons hate short hair on women?
Wait, what?
In Rosemary's Baby, halfway through the film, Mia Farrow cuts her hair, which is true, and her husband.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And her husband and the elders, the
Satan worshippers,
right, hate it. Why did demons hate short hair on women? Well, I don't think it's that. I haven't watched the movie in a little bit, so I would have to watch the film again to see if there is something that is said, because it's possible that there could be something that is said in the movie that is a direct answer to that. If there isn't, and the only evidence we have of them not liking it is just them showing their distaste for it, I don't think it has anything to do with the devil and demons not liking short hair, unless, to the contrary, unless there is something in the movie that points to that she needs to have long hair because of this, or they would prefer she had long hair for this reason. Maybe that is in there. I don't recall that being in there. I think it probably has more to do with, at least off the top of my head, more to do with the sign of independence, sign of strength, and a willingness to, she's changing her appearance. So she's, I don't know, it just more of, maybe the control over her is not as much as they thought they had. Like, I don't know. Was there a scene where she said something like, I'm thinking of cutting my hair, and then they all said, no, don't do it, you're beautiful, and then she did, maybe, or something, and then they're like, what do you... I don't know. I'd have to watch the movie again. It's been a few years since I've seen it.
It's been a while.
But I've never gotten the impression watching it that was why. So I think it probably has another reason.
You know what, though? Honestly, dude, I'm not kidding you. I am literally a sucker for a girl with short hair. I mean, it could be almost any girl. Now, I don't know if we're going to go deep here, because I know how you like to peel layers back on shit. I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact of the type of relationship. Now, when I say this, remember, I'm a kid that I had with my neighbor, Lisa, because I told you she had that short hair, and it was just a connection type thing. You know what I mean? She was cool to me, and I took care of her lawn. Okay, I know where people are going to go and all that stuff. But do you think, on the psychological level, actually, I wish I could ask your girl that question. The reason why I'm very attracted to women with short hair is because of that. Because of that relationship that I had with her at such a young age.
Maybe
the impact of it.
Look, I think some women, I think some people in general, I don't think it's just women. I think there are some men that look really good bald. They can pull it off. And I think or short, well, most men have short hair, but like you, for instance, like you look great bald because you got a really nice bald head.
Thank God, because life would suck.
Well, it's true, but not every man has a nicely shaped noggin, right? It's true. Women, I think it depends. I think if you have bolder features, now I don't know what your Lisa had there, but I think if you have bolder features,
she had the spiky with little bit coming down, because that was the 90s. The girls were doing that in the early 90s, the short hair, the spiky thing. Yeah.
But in terms of the actual face, I think, and again, it's not, it's in the eye of the beholder. I get it. But generally speaking, a woman that has more bolder features rather than rounder, cuter, features. I think women that have stronger, bolder features like a Natalie Portman or Keira Knightley or Winona Ryder.
I think who else has gone down the short hair road and it's pulled it off very well.
Right. I think if you have stronger features, do
you remember? Not to bring up Will Smith, but the black girl that Will Smith was dating in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think her name was Nikki.
I don't know. I can't remember
the actress's name, but do you remember his girlfriend?
Sort of.
It was that type of short hair that Lisa had, and that was very popular in the 90s.
I get it. But I'm talking about the face. And I think, for example, speaking of Will Smith, when you take Jada Pinkett Smith, I always say Pinkett Smith, again, she looks really good with short hair. Demi Moore. She looks good bald. Demi Moore. But the commonality between them is that they all have bold. I mean, some are bolder than others. And when I say bold, I don't mean manly. I just mean a stronger jaw, maybe more of a longer nose or, whatever the case is, right? It's not a cuter feature like, say, I don't know, like Jenna Ortega from, Scream or from X or whatever, right? I'm not saying that she wouldn't look good with short hair. I'm just saying, generally speaking, I think women, especially if you have stronger, bolder features, tend to look quite striking with shorter hair. You can pull it off better. Whereas if you have cuter, rounder features, you tend to look maybe a little more boyish or maybe cuter, not quite as...
it's a good example of that. Amanda, is it Barnes from Married with Children?
Amanda Barnes. No, not from Married with Children, but I know who you're talking about. No, you mean Christina
Darcy.
Applegate?
No, Marcy Darcy, the neighbor. When she cut and started to do the short kind of boyish
Barnes,
look.
Right. Sorry, I thought you meant Amanda Bynes.
Bynes, or is that her name?
No, it's not. I thought you were talking about Amanda Bynes. But
no, I was talking about Marcy Darcy. That she's a prime example of the short hair where it kind of does look on the boyish side.
Sure. Well, look at Amanda Bynes, that actress who had she went through a whole thing, whatever. She has cuter features and short hair doesn't really suit her that well.
Chris, what is that actress's name now from Married with Children? I think I'm screwing it up.
Chat room will let us know. Chat room will
let me know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think some women do look great with short hair. I think some women can look very sexy with short hair. 100%. Absolutely. Can definitely pull it off. And then there are some women that I don't think it quite suits just because of the shape of their face or the shape of their nose, or they look too cute, look too boyish, it's not quite the look that I think they're going for. That doesn't mean that all women with cuter, rounder features can't pull it off. I mean, it can depend. But
then occasionally you can have a woman rock the short hair look and look very mature. And the perfect example for this is if you go back to the early seasons of Home Improvement, and Patricia Richardson was rocking some of the short hair 90s style look.
Yeah,
but she looked more mature.
Well, she was older, and that was more kind of like, that's not like
that curly short hair.
Yeah, that's not really Winona Ryder short. We're talking.
No.
Yeah, we're talking like short to the head and.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, totally. Let me see.
Bierce. See, they got us.
They got you.
Bierce, that's her name.
They got you. Movie Chat and More Part 2 sends in £5 and says, I'm 41. Back in 90-91, we used to play Madman Marks. I haven't heard of this. You call that name. You call that name and you are a protagonist. The last person to call it was the killer. Interesting. That's cool. I've never heard of that. Very cool. Thanks, Richard, for sharing that. AK Channel TV sends in $1.99, says, worst fight each of you had. I've had my share. Worst fight? I don't know. Like going back to school. I mean, for me, it probably will depend. Like define worst. Like fight that I lost. I haven't been in too many. I've won everyone that I was in, which was only like 3 or 4. But I was. I played more the intimidation game
than won and loss.
Yeah, I played more of the intimidation game, I think. But it depends on what you mean by worst. I think worst for me, I'll tell you what the worst was. It was because of the fallout of it. It was junior high school. I was in the 8th grade. And there was this Somalian kid. And ironically, we ended up becoming sort of, friends kind of in high school.
What happened with me.
Yeah, like we were totally okay. But he was a Somalian kid, so he was black. And his name was Ishmael. And
Dave's racist.
Well, I'm getting to that. So now this is like 93, 94. Okay. So it was so stupid. Like he was not a bully, but I don't know if he was having trouble fitting in or whatever. Who knows what was going through him. But we rubbed elbows in the bathroom one day, like, you bump into each other, like, what the fuck kind of thing, right? And we ended up meeting each other outside after school. I couldn't give a frog. I didn't care he was black. I didn't care about that. It was just, it was another student that rubbed you the wrong way. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. And so we got into a fight in the schoolyard after school, and we tussled. It was a big fight, and then the teachers broke it up, and I was sent to the principal's office, things like that. He was suspended for 2 or 3 days. I was suspended for 2 or 3 days. And I remember my dad getting a phone call from our vice principal at the time. And I remember my dad telling me that the vice principal asked my dad if I had an issue with black people, that if I was racist. I mean, not in so many words point blank, but that's what he was alluding to. And I remember my dad told me, he goes, no. He goes, what the hell are you talking about? It's 2 kids. Like, is there any evidence of that? No. It's like they told you they got into it's a shoulder bump in the bathroom and what the fuck kind of thing or whatever. And they got into a fight. No, not at all. My dad was livid. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? And I'm sitting there going, what? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And again, at that time, I'm just like, you're 14. You're not thinking about that kind of stuff. You're like, what? What are you talking about? And then I get called into the principal's office, or the vice principal's office. No, excuse me, the principal's office. I'm in there with a guidance counselor who I later find out years later was a sexual predator. He's since died. That's fucking creepy as all hell. There's a picture of me in the 8th grade picking up this guidance counselor and putting him on my shoulder. He was 6'3", 230 pounds, and I could pick him up and put him on my shoulder, just kind of like, that kind of thing. And there's a picture of me with him on my shoulder in the 8th grade, in our 8th grade yearbook. And I'm like, well, he was probably really enjoying that. But anyway, so fucking sick man. I had no idea, obviously. But anyway, so there I am in the vice principal's office. So, excuse me, the principal's office. And they're cornering me, and he was my guidance counselor. This guy who ended up who ended up being a sexual predator. And the principal's there, and they're like they're grilling me. They're yelling at like it's my fault. I think they were so fucking worried about the optics of how it looked that a white kid beat up a black kid, that they were so livid about it that they were like basically trying to make me, like almost like in like an interrogation room where they're basically, no, come on, just admit it, you are. Like it almost felt like that. And I'm sitting there and I started to speak, and the guidance counselor's like, shut up. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I couldn't get a word in edgewise because apparently there was a rumor that Ishmael was going to come to school the next day or after our suspensions were done with a baseball bat. And so I wanted to let them know that because I didn't want the crap kicked out of me with a baseball bat. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I left the principal's office, walked right next door into the vice principal's office to tell him about it. I was like, hey, listen, I'm like, I can't get an edge. I didn't say it like this, but I'm thinking I can't fucking talk to your other fucking staff. I want to tell you, I want to let you know that there's this rumor that he's going to do this. So I told him that, whatever, but I couldn't believe it. So the fallout of it, I think, was the worst of it, and like, but even Ishmael was like, no, this had nothing to do with race. Like we were like, it was just, it's just two dudes
getting it on and
exactly. Yeah. Like I couldn't care less. And then in high school, we were like, not friends, but he was in my tech class, and like a home ec kind of thing. And we sit beside each other and we'd laugh about it. We'd be like, it's fucking stupid. Yeah, it was. And we were like, yeah, it was so dumb. So anyway, that's mine. Yours?
Mine, I have two. So two kids that I got into fights with in junior high. One I fought 3 times, one I fought twice. So of the 13 fights, they were like half of them. One kid's name was Ryan Duza. And then the other one was Justin. And Justin just had
Dusha.
Yeah, pretty much was a douche. Justin's is pretty quick. He just had, I think in hindsight, looking at it now as an adult, he has issues. And I am very confident if I were to look him up right now, he's probably serving time for probably raping a woman or something, because the first time he grabbed my friend Allison's ass and it made her upset. So the way our junior high was set up is we had wings and it was a circle. And in the circle was the library, the auditorium, and like a classroom for remedial kids, not slow kids, but
I
you know
get
what
you.
I mean? Not
I took a remedial class. I had some trouble in like math and shit like
so
that.
You know
I get
exactly what it is.
100%.
So I knew he would always be hanging outside the door there because I knew he was in there, and he would always be just kind of doing like this thing. So sure enough, when class ended, I knew he was going to be standing there at the doorway. And I told I had a friend, we called him Woody for short. His name was Robert Wood.
Right.
And we called him Woody for short. I said, Woody, grab my books, took my books, and I just made a beeline and I decked him. And Justin goes right down to the ground. I'm like, you touch Allison again, I will fucking wreck you. 2 months later, he touches Allison again. He grabs her in the chest. Okay. So
why is he fucking doing that?
I don't know, dude. But at this time, he's hobbling around school with crutches. He was one of these kids that was always looking for attention. And we kind of all knew the crutches were bullshit. So Allison comes we were in science class and she comes in, she's crying now. Like, the first time around she was angry. This time she's fucking crying. She says, what happened? Dude, class hadn't even started. And I stormed out of the classroom. Everyone knew because I was gunning right down the hallway for him. And sure enough, his dumb ass is still outside in the hallway talking to someone, and he's got his crutch there. I grab the crutch, bam, start whacking him across the leg with it. And he falls down to the ground. He's like, what? I'm like, I told you not to fucking touch her, dude. And you're still fucking touching her. The third fight, this is the phone book story, where our town every summer it was called the Taste of Enfield. And it was like it started off originally as an Italian festival that grew into a very multicultural, like, Polish food, all the Jamaican food. Some of the Jamaican food they had there, so fucking good. But that's basically what it was. It was the Taste of Enfield. And on the last night of the Taste of Enfield, they had fireworks. Right. So that's usually when everybody would show up. We'd all show up there and all the kids were hanging out, by the town green and whatnot. Well, that night he hit Allison and I made a beeline for him, but this time he tried to start to run away from me and run down. I knew he lived in the area. Right. So me and my boys are chasing him down alleyways. And I'm telling you,
this kid's definitely in prison right now.
I know he is. Yeah. I literally took everything that Stallone did in Rocky V and basically did that to him, minus the fact that he didn't lay a hand on me. I mean, I threw him to the ground. I kicked him in the ribs. I grabbed the phone book. I beat him with the phone book.
This sounds like your best fight, not your worst.
I took a trash can, freaking slammed it on him. I kicked him in the face. And that was it, because we never saw him freshman year, because that was our summer of 8th grade going into freshman year. And he just sort of vanished. Like, we never saw him again. And I'm telling you, if I were betting 10-1, that dude is in jail somewhere because of, doing some crazy shit. Ryan Duza, okay, he kept trying to talk to my girlfriend. Like, I mean, and like, it was literally not like getting the message that she wasn't interested. He was this like preppy Jason Priestley, Brandon Walsh, like wannabe, like back in the day, remember when guys had the freaking hair, coiffed over and all. Like, I never did that. I always kept my hair short, or it was long. There was pretty much no in between with it. And so we're walking in the hallway during in between periods, and I see him. Danielle told me what happened, and I walked up to him and I was like, why are you talking to her, dude? She doesn't want to talk to you. He's like, I can talk to whoever I want. Clocked him across the face and said, no, you can't. And he gets a shiner from me and he's like, whatever. And I walked away. Then at the dance, this was the fall dance. He's trying to fucking talk to her and trying to dance with her, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So I tell him we're gonna fight after the dance. Okay, we're gonna meet outside of Red Wing.
You're gonna rumble. You're gonna rumble like in
we're gonna rumble.
West Side Story.
Literally. But here's the interesting thing about that fight that happened after the dance is when I first moved to Enfield, I became friends with this kid named Randy, and we were playing football one day. We were in the 5th grade, and me and him got into a fight during that game because I to this day admit it was a cheap hit, cheap shot, 5th graders, in the heat of the moment. And me and him got into a fight playing football. And that was a pretty equal fight. Like I walked away with a shiner. He walked away with a shiner. That's how most of my fights ended. Like he got a few licks in, I got a few licks in, and we walked away, whatever, Justin, no, he didn't get anything on me. Ryan, the Ryan fight that night. So we all go out there and Randy's there. Me and Randy hadn't been friends really since that fight. Like we lived in the same street, we saw each other. It kind of sucked because he was a really good friend before the fight that happened between me and him.
Right.
We'd have sleepovers, playing Nintendo to all hours of the fucking morning. So we all go outside and I'm beating the shit out of Ryan. Well, 2 of Ryan's friends jump in and start attacking me. So now I'm able to fend one off. And then all of a sudden I feel somebody like kick. I felt the force of the kick because one of Ryan's boys was on my back and it was Randy jumping in to help me. Nice. So we end up becoming friends after this because he's helping me out because it's now become a two or 3 against 1 ultimately fight. Right. Because I'm tearing this kid a new asshole on the ground and his boys jump in to try to help him out.
Yeah.
And so, but in hindsight, I would say I really wish I could have sat down and find out why Justin kept pushing those buttons with that girl, with my friend Allison. Like it never made sense to me. The Ryan situation, it was more like he was he was just a douchebag who just didn't care. He was going to talk to whatever he felt like talking to, and ultimately ended up into an after dance scuffle and whatnot. But never got the kid that me and the last fight I got into, he clocked me good. I mean, he really clocked me good. I remember telling him that afterwards when we became friends, like, dude, you're the hardest. I took it, but it was the hardest punch that I've ever taken by someone. Kid knew how to fight. That was the only time I ever got suspended because most of my fights were either quick, no one saw it, teachers never saw it, or they were outside, or they were, at the. It's
amazing the amount of people that don't know how to throw a punch. I've watched YouTube videos of people
he was
fighting,
the only
and it's
one
like,
who
it's like people going like this and coming over this way, and I'm
fuck?
like, what the hell is that crap? Very interesting. Indeed.
Getting jumped was probably, I wouldn't count that as a fight. I got jumped. I really didn't have a chance to do anything to defend myself.
Hey, yeah, of course. Cody Snyder sends in $5, says, love you, Tony. Your IG accounts and the shows here definitely help me out. Takes away some of the stress from the rest of the week. Glad you're here. Thank you, Cody, for sending that in to Tony. Riker H sends in $5, says, in Hostel, there's a scene you see a guy's feet shaking, scared, tied up in the chair. Then you hear a chainsaw start and his feet just stop moving from fear. I can imagine that would be very, I would probably be crapping my pants if I was in the same position there. Riker, no doubt about it, man. Movie Chat and More Part 2 sends another £2 and says, Bill Skarsgård, I think it's Guard, Bill Skarsgård, not Garg. Bill Skarsgård as the Crow, bad mistake. I don't really have any thoughts on it. I don't know. People thought Heath Ledger was a bad mistake too. So I always wait and see.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's for me, The Crow is going to have a special place. I love the original Crow with Brandon Lee. It's a fucking masterpiece of a movie. I don't think it needs to be remade. There are other Crow stories that they can tell within that, comic book or whatever, graphic novel, whatever it is. They don't need to do the Eric Draven story. I don't know why they're doing the Eric Draven story. They could tell one of the other stories and still call it The Crow. I just don't think, I don't mind them doing a Crow. I just don't think they should do the Eric Draven story. You know, I think they should really respectfully leave that alone. You know, because, and honestly, I don't, with or without the death of Brandon Lee making the movie, you're not going to make it any better. I mean,
but people will go see it.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, so Halloween ends is over.
The other ones, they didn't really draw. The other Crow movies that they didn't really do that well.
No, they did not. They did not. HT Dominic St. Clair sends in $5. Says, I dressed up as an officer. I dressed up as an officer for a prank video. Also, I'm going to film school to learn filmmaking. The reason why is due to my way of learning. Oh, okay, cool. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Prank videos are always fun, for sure. And you're going to school to learn filmmaking? Well, I wish you the best of luck, Dominic. The best of luck, man.
I remember this one time I dressed up as an officer. I was living on a port side.
You were stripping.
Near.
Those were your hot stripper days.
The port side of where would that be? Maine. We'll call it Maine. Yeah, because Maine had a port. No, Boston had a port. And you know, I was dating this little hot number who was working in the factory. And one day I decided to get in a white officer's uniform and throw on some. God, who sings that song? Joe Crocker and fuck. Can't remember the chick's name now. But you know the song, Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong.
Sure, yep.
Pull a Richard Gere officer. No, I didn't do that.
No, it was during your stripping days. During your stripping days. You know, on stage. Movie Chat and More Part 2. £2 says, do you think JJC is overrated? No, I don't. I don't think he's overrated.
Who's JJC?
James Jude Courtney, I think.
Well, I mean, I only know him for Michael. I don't know him for anything.
Yeah, that's who I assume that's what Movie Chat and More means, is that do we think he's overrated as Michael Myers? I mean, he's I don't even know if he's a character actor, really. He's done some things, and obviously he's more of a stunt performer, and Halloween will now be the biggest thing that he's ever done in his career, and he's done a great job as Michael Myers, and most people, I think, agree with that. So no, I don't think he's overrated at all. Not in that context.
Yeah, because I don't know any of his other body of work. I don't, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm rushing to see a James Jude Courtney movie, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's what it is for.
Now, do I think Jamie Lee Curtis is overrated? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis.
I mean, look, the reality is this. If Jamie Lee Curtis is headlining a movie that's not Halloween, it's not like people are lining up to see it. Now, if Jamie Lee Curtis is part of an ensemble like A Fish Called Wanda or Trading Places or co-starring with Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies, yeah, she's been a part of big movies, but when she's done the standalone stuff, unless it's Halloween, she's not like a big box office draw.
No. Most women aren't, to be honest with you.
Well, except for like Meryl, you know.
No, but even Meryl Streep is not a big box office draw.
No, I get you.
I think it's for women, it's different, and that's just because of in a lot of ways, the objectification of how we see. Again, I always speak generally, right? I'm not saying there isn't an example of a woman that's a box office draw. I'm just saying, generally speaking, when we think of movie stars and big box office draws, we think of men. And generally speaking, it is the men that are the big box office draws. So Jamie Lee, but you're right. She's never really been a leading lady, so to speak, like Meryl Streep has. But I think she is very talented, and I think the roles that she has had have been great. I think she was terrific.
You know, actually, believe it or not, is one of my favorite Jamie Lee Curtis movies, and it's not really one that's well received and well liked. But I love watching this every Christmas with her and Tim Allen. Christmas with the Cranks.
Christmas with the Cranks. Yeah,
I like it. It's just one of those movies that like it's a good Christmas feels movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I actually didn't really like it the first time I watched it, but now it's kind of grown on me a bit.
Yeah, there's some moments between her and Alan that are really, really good.
Yeah,
like I said, it's not
in it.
Dan Aykroyd's in it. You know, it's kind of like if I had to like sit there and define the neighborhood that I wish I could have grown up in, that was it.
Right.
Like,
I got you.
That would definitely be it. But I mean, no, I like A Fish Called Wanda. I love Trading Places, but I don't watch like Trading Places for Jamie Lee Curtis. I watch it for Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and you know what I mean?
Of course.
So yeah.
Yep, I get you. Super chat from Wolfie P17 just sends in $2. Thank you, Wolfie. Appreciate that. Super chat from Ethan LeBlanc sends in $9.99. Thank you, Ethan. Says, hey, Dave, do you think the flashback sequence would have been better served in H18, or is it better for kills? And should they use any more flashbacks or leave 78 alone? Well, it all depends on how you're telling the story, right? Obviously, although Halloween 3 was... excuse me, Halloween.
Season of the Witch?
No. I meant, although this new incarnation of Halloween, the original design was to do 3 movies, is what I meant.
Okay, I gotcha.
They did the first one, and the first one ended the way it did because obviously they have no idea how it's going to go. Is it going to be successful? Is it not going to be successful? You could absolutely just have Halloween 18 and it ends fine. Like, I know there's Michael breathing at the end, but actually it works. Did he survive? Didn't he survive? I don't know. They kind of allude to that he might have, but it works. Like, you could leave it there and I'm satisfied. But it became the highest grossing slasher movie in motion picture history. It overperformed $250 million, the worldwide box office. Obviously, they're going to do a follow-up. Yes, I mean, so they have gone back to go forward in the sequel to kind of fill in those gaps that they didn't fill in part 1 because they didn't know if there was going to be a part 2. It really is sort of the structure of the story. Like, how are we telling the narrative? So in the sequence of events, yeah, you would think that you would start with the flashback, then you would go to 18, and if they were guaranteed that they were going to do 2 and 3 kills and ends, then maybe they would have done that. Maybe they would have like, if they knew, if Blum had said, Universal had said, no, it's a 3-picture thing. It's you're doing 3 pictures, no matter the outcome, which doesn't usually happen, but you know what I mean? Then maybe they would have written it a bit differently. But I only think the reason why the flashback appears in the second, not that it was ever supposed to appear in the first one, but I think it's they're now filling in gaps, right? They have Hawkins. You know, what does Hawkins mean? You know, what's his dealio? Why isn't he sheriff? You know, why is he? You know, what's going on? So now they have to kind of go back to tell why.
Back to that, yeah.
You know, so it's just the structure of how they decided to do it, and I guess they just didn't have enough time to tell all that in the first bit. They just didn't structure it that way. It's just all part of the structure. But it works. And then, sorry, your question was, should they use
it have
any
been
more?
in the 18 film and not Halloween Kills?
Right. Well, I think, yeah, well, that's what I was just kind of talking about. I should it have been, well, again, it depends on, yes, I think to make it more linear, sure, if you're going to reveal all that up front, but they just didn't have the time to do that because they didn't know what was going to happen, you know, so they left it vague on purpose for 18, you know, and then,
that was,
sorry. And then he says, and then should they use any more flashbacks or leave 78 alone now? Depends if it's properly motivated. If there's a reason, if there's a reason to jump back to 78, then, well, and it makes sense and it's properly motivated by the narrative, then you do it. I don't think they're going to do it though. I think 78's done.
Yeah. It's definitely what I liked. One of the things that I liked most about Halloween Kills, beyond, as Dave and I were talking before the stream, Lindsay Wallace's character. I always call her Lindsay Wallace because I always forget her fucking name in real life. Real Housewives chick.
Yeah. Why am I blanking?
I'm blanking on her name too, dude. So don't
Kylie Richards.
Kylie Richards. Yeah. You know, obviously I really, really loved the push with Andy Manichak's character of Allison. I hope that's a big focus on Halloween Ends. I have high expectations for her. being the last one standing. I'm torn on, do I want Lindsay to die? I'm still on the fence with that. If she goes, I hope she goes down with a blaze of glory and is done right. I'm okay with that, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for Lindsay. So that'll be tough to see her go. So yeah, I loved the flashback sequence. I loved the moments, which were very fucking little, that we got with Lindsay in Halloween Kills. I love the kills. The kills were good. No complaint on that. That's pretty much.
I get you.
That's it. That's all I like about the movie.
I get you.
So there you go.
Movie chat and more. 5 pounds, excuse me. Will you watch Ends at the cinema if we hear the C word in the trailers? I won't. By the way, 80s comedies, Planes, Trains, Police Academy, and Christmas Vacation. Great comedies.
Great.
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends on how it's used, right? I mean, if it's a line that's like, say it's, we need to get everybody inside because there's a COVID outbreak and we don't want anybody to, and then they show, well, then it might be kind of like, oh, really? That's not going to happen. Okay, that's not going to happen. I think what David Gordon, at least I would like to believe what Jamie Lee Curtis and David Gordon Green, I don't even think he said anything. I think what Curtis is that it's a world that is post that now. So, you could have some extra paranoia with people in the town, perhaps, and maybe they're afraid to go outside or something, or, I don't know. I to think that COVID is going to be the driving narrative of the movie. No, I've never thought that. And I don't think you should expect that either.
I hope not, because it'll definitely be the worst Halloween movie.
Yeah, no, it makes no sense.
If we're watching scenes where, they're masked up like regular masks, what I mean? Not Halloween masks. If that is a part of the storytelling that they're telling, it will be very hard to separate, you know what I mean? Because the whole point of going to a movie is to escape from reality, you know what I mean? Because this is not real. Michael Myers is not real. This is all a fictional thing. And if you're going to start bringing it into a real world element, and if it's a throwaway moment, if like Dave said, if it's a moment where it's something where they don't harp upon it.
Yeah, they're just acknowledging the era they're in.
If it's acknowledging the era, then that's fine. But if it's something to where the presence of that is sensed throughout the whole film, or off and on periodically, yeah, that's going to take me out of it, and that's going to piss me the fuck off. And that's going to force me to go buy Halloween Resurrection, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Wolfie P17, $5 says, hey guys, what did you guys think about Stone Cold Steve Austin's 2-night WrestleMania appearance? Nostalgia at its best. I only saw bits and pieces.
Got my shirts out.
I didn't even know WrestleMania was this weekend. I haven't been a wrestling fan for about over 20. I haven't watched it since he was part of the whole thing back in the 90s and the Attitude Era and WCW. I respect adults, mostly men. If you are still into it, you still watch it. That's fine. For me, I just grew out of it. It's hard. It's hard for me to get into now because it is very, I don't know, it just feels like it's a kid's show, at the end of the day. I don't mean any disrespect by saying that. I just simply mean that, I grew out of it. And I don't think it's, well, and I just want to finish by saying, and, after the Attitude Era, it's also become more PG and it was far more shocking back in the late 90s with some of the things they were doing and some of the things that you would see on television. I mean, maybe they're tame by today's comparison, but back in the 90s, watching Vince McMahon's ass cheeks on TV and seeing some of the the stuff that was said and the middle fingers all over the place and the blood that was on the canvas, and it was and then they had to PG it up, and they watered it down big time. They softened it, and I don't know if it's ever really fully recovered from that. I think maybe it's a bit better now. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you any name of any wrestlers or who's got the championship or what the storylines are. I have absolutely no fucking idea. And I don't say that as in like I'm better than you because I'm not a fan anymore. I don't mean it like that. I just mean that I'm not I don't know. I'm so disconnected from it. However, every now and then I'll see on social media or something that, Goldberg came back or something. And I'll quickly YouTube to see that because of the nostalgia and things like that. But I didn't even know WrestleMania was this weekend. I found out because I have a voiceover buddy named Mike Pongratz. Shout out to Mike. who is really good friends with the wrestler Edge. They went to college together. Edge is Canadian.
Cool. He's Canadian.
Yeah, and they went to college together, and Mike is really good friends with him. And Mike even worked as a writer on the Edge and Christian show, I think it was called, on the WWE Network. And so I saw Mike made a post that he was flying to Dallas, and I was like, oh, I wonder why he's going to Dallas, maybe for voiceover or something, I don't know. And then I saw somebody else somewhere mention something about WrestleMania in Texas, and I was like, oh, I bet you he's going to Mania. And he was. He posted a ton of photos, ringside, backstage, with all the wrestlers and things like that. Hey, it pays to be, good friends with Edge, right? So that's how I found out. I had no idea. So when I found that out, and that Stone Cold was coming back to wrestle, which I thought was hilarious at 57, and I quickly YouTubed it and watched a clip, and it was, you know what? He didn't do too bad of a job. He was all right, a little rough around the edges. You could tell he was a little slow.
57,
but 57. But he did all right. He did all right.
More than I expected, for sure.
Sure.
This is the first time since I stuck with it a little bit during the Ruthless Aggression era when he stopped wrestling, and he was still kind of he was like the commissioner, the sheriff. They were trying to keep his, because he was so over, and he was such a key figure to the business that it was hard to, McMahon was doing everything he could to keep his, presence known, but it just got to a point where, you wanted to see Austin in the ring, but of course, you realize the injuries and everything.
Yeah.
You understand why he stopped. And, so for me, I've been checked out of it since about that time during the Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah. I haven't watched era. Since like 99.
And for me, this
2000.
was very, look, I like you said, I'm not going to disrespect if you're a fan of this new generation of wrestlers.
It's fine.
I'm not feeling it, because here's why. Let's just, before we even get to the Attitude Era, let's take it back to Dave and I to the 80s. Okay. And you talk about that era that Dave and I grew up with as kids. I mean, you got names like Hogan, Savage, Andre the Giant, Big Boss Man, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, Jimmy Fly Snuka, the tag teams like the Hart Foundation. And of course, Bret had his solo career, Demolition, British Bulldogs, the Rockers, before Shawn Michaels and Jannetty split up. You've got all these, iconic fucking names in the business just in the 80s. Then you go to the Attitude Era. And, and I know I've from Ultimate Warrior, Ravishing Rick Rude, Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, you just keep going on and on and on.
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Just so many great legendary names in the business of that 80s, run. And not only that, but you had great moments too in the 80s. You had the Savage Steamboat match, which is arguably considered one of the greatest matches ever in wrestling history, just from a technical aspect of what both athletes did in the ring, as far as their performance go. Then, of course, you had Hogan slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3. So you had all these like great moments, and even moments that, if you remember the old TV show they had, which they didn't do a lot of, was Saturday Night Main Event. That was, and you had moments where Hogan came down saving Macho Man from the Hart Foundation, and Honky Tonk Man, who I think Honky Tonk Man was probably one of the best intercontinental champions, during, and he was such a great fucking heel. But then when you get to the Attitude Era, Stone Cold, he's my all-time favorite, then Macho Man. But what really you put at that time, if you were to take Steve Austin and put him into the WCW, he would not have elevated to the level that he got to with WWF/E, because what Stone Cold had was the right storm. You had Vince McMahon, which arguably him and McMahon are the greatest rivalry.
He was the anti-hero.
It's the best story that we will ever see. We'll never see anything like that again. But then
you had sticking it to the man.
Absolutely. And then you had the supporting cast around Austin with The Rock, you know, the rivalry with The Rock that he had, and you know, the Taker storyline, you know, was Taker good or bad, or was he badass, or you know, whatever Taker was doing. Yeah, exactly. You had Kane, you had Shawn Michaels, you had historic matches with Michaels, you had Triple H, and then of course DX. And you can't even minimize during that time frame some of the matches like with Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle. You know, say what we want about, you know, he's a billionaire son. Shane McMahon gave us some of the fucking greatest matches. And what I remember the match where he's standing on top of the fucking Titantron and he fucking does an elbow drop down onto a table.
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
It's nuts. And then of course, obviously the iconic Hell in the Cell match with Mankind and Undertaker. You know, the thing about the Attitude Era is that it was a locker room filled of guys who were they weren't out for just one individual. They were pushing the business in the direction together as a group. You know, yeah, Austin, obviously no one will ever be as over as Austin is. I mean, I know you got the Hulkamania fans and the Hulk Hogan fans out there, but it doesn't even come close to when you talk about what Stone Cold did and the pops that Stone Cold got. I mean, Jesus, man, watching WrestleMania this week, and I'm like, the dude's still getting the largest fucking crowd reaction, even to this day. And we're never going to see anything like that. And then watching these, you know, wrestlers, I can't even begin to think of, you know, are these, you know, they don't even look like future Hall of Famers. You know what I mean? Like we're listing off Razor Ramon. Yeah. Cause someone mentioned Scott Hall there just a moment ago. I mean, there were so many great wrestlers in the 80s, in the early 90s. And I kind of checked out on the new generation era, that mid 90s, right before Attitude kicked in. When Attitude kicked in that 96, and then the two television stories. Now that I'm gonna be able to share that with you. The reason why my brother had two televisions, Monday Night Raw, WCW, Nitro, so he could watch the both of them.
That's
because
awesome.
They were both shows were airing simultaneously during the Monday Night Wars. And that's the thing. Like some people have actually mentioned AEW, and I have subscribed to their YouTube channel. And there was a recent match here that AEW put on with the Hardy Boys that had some old school ruthless aggression Attitude Era feels, like, and the way the Hardy Boys were, you know, the way the match was scripted out, the crowd reaction. I was like, man, it's not quite like the Attitude Era or ruthless aggression, but definitely has those vibes. The cast in this new WWE, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's nothing there for me to go back now and watch this. I watched it for one purpose, to see Steve Austin, and that was it.
For sure. There's two things I'll say. And it's just that, and I don't know because I don't watch anymore, but one of the things that why is because wrestling became very less about wrestling and more about the drama and the characters and things like that. And when you go back to the Attitude Era of the WWE, I mean, the actual match part was, and much to the chagrin of some wrestlers, where it was all about, you know, the matches, but the matches were, I mean, it really became a soap opera. That's what it was. And it was, I mean,
like we were talking about Raw and WCW in school with each other.
Of course. But it wasn't even about the matches. It was about the drama. The drama.
Did you see what Austin did?
Well, that would happen in the ring. And then you'd have somebody come into the ring and somebody's talking, and somebody would come in and somebody would disrespect somebody's wife, and then somebody would pull somebody's hair, and then somebody would beat somebody with a chair. And it's not even a match, you know, and then, you know, a truck would come in, or, you know, one of the wrestlers would
Zamboni down to the ring.
Right. Or you'd have a fight in a grocery store with, you know, Booker T. And then
that was classic.
Like it was so silly. It was so, but that's what really and then the other thing is that it really was about the wrestlers really understood their characters and what their roles were, and really defined. Not everybody's got it. Not everybody has the charisma and the personality and the presence to captivate an audience, to captivate a room, to be a star. Not everybody does. And so what could be happening right now, and maybe it's cyclical, maybe it'll come around again. What could be happening right now is that for at least a lot of years, the WWE just had a lot of very charismatic, clearly defined characters that commanded I mean, look at, The Rock, look at Dwayne Johnson and what,
One of the best mic guys ever.
Of course. And so to have that presence and to command a room and to have that, chemistry and charisma, and connection with your audience, and to be able to read the audience and, the crowd and the room, and to know what to do and all this kind of stuff. Right now, and maybe for many years, the WWE, it's not that they don't have some people that, are not bad, but maybe, I don't know, I don't watch it. Maybe one of the reasons why people are kind of like, about it is because the WWE for many years has just been pushing a bunch of average people. There's nothing wrong with them. It's not like they're not talented, but they're not stars. They don't know how to command a room and the presence, and they're fine. I mean, they get on there and they're like, listen here, you bum, and whatever. Okay, fine. I mean, it's fine. It's serviceable. It gets you through, the hour and a half or whatever it is. But there aren't those real charismatic personalities. You need more of because it's not like Austin was a great wrestler. It's not like Hogan was a great wrestler.
No, it's not Hogan was right. Dude, a Hogan match you can predict.
Right.
Test the strength.
Right.
A couple of bumps,
for sure. Leg drop, tonic leg drop. For sure. But
Hulk up.
It also was a different era. But the point I'm making is that you look at Macho Man. You look nobody, and I'm not saying that, but it almost
Macho
feels
Man
like
was a good technical wrestler.
Sure. But it almost feels like, look at Goldberg. Couldn't wrestle if his life depended on him. But if you have the right look and the right personality, the right presence, it almost becomes more important than your ability to wrestle.
Well, that happened with Mark Calloway when he became the Undertaker.
Right.
Pre-Undertaker, he was nothing. He was just a big dude, and then that Undertaker character.
Right. And so that's it. So I think maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of being able to push, maybe just right now they just don't have it.
Well, like some people mentioned here in the chat room, look, Edge is from, and he's still wrestling, but he's from the Attitude Era. He came in with the Ministry, and then he teamed up with Christian, and they were, him and Christian were tag team partners, had some legendary tables and ladders and chairs match with the Dudley Boys and the Hardys, with Lita, and all that situation between Matt Hardy and Edge, and Randy Orton too. Someone mentioned Randy Orton. Randy Orton also came in with the Horsemen during, I think, Ruthless Aggression. I don't think he was there for Attitude, but I believe he was there towards the tail end or midway through Ruthless. He was there with Ric Flair and Batista and Triple H. And they were I think there was the Four Horsemen. I think that's what they called themselves. So those two have been in it for a minute. They're not like, so when you're mentioning their names, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And I know they're still wrestling, but they're not even used. Like when I saw Orton's match over the weekend, cause I got the whole package, cause you're getting both nights, and they did it as a 2-night thing. I was like, really, this is how they're using him now? The Edge match was good. I forgot Edge fought, I don't even know the guy's name now. Whoever, his match was solid. It was a good performance. The guy who he wrestled with, that was entertaining. Ronda Rousey's match was good because I liked her from the MMA days. But the rest of them, like Dave said, there's nothing there that's like saying to me, I want to go back. Yeah. And Brock Lesnar, Lesnar's been there since,
he's been there
for years as well too. So yeah, I agree with that. But he's also not full-time wrestler. He's not doing this full-time, which is why I think he dropped the belt last night to that whole long-haired guy, whoever Roman something, whatever. Anyways. So yeah, I know there's a handful of guys that are still part of the roster that will definitely be Hall of Famers. But I get it. It's not enough for me to go, I'm going to be able, I'm coming back. You know what I mean? Like I left the WWF, like I said, in the mid 90s, like I wasn't feeling the new generation era, but then my brother was, when just at the very early, he's like, you got to see what's going on here with, the Monday Night Wars and, right around in 96. And then I saw what WWF was doing. And I remember that famous commercial that McMahon cut, gone the days of eat your vitamins and say your prayers. WWF is ushering in a new attitude. The Attitude Era, and it brought me back in, and I was like, I'm fucking loving this. And then I definitely grew to really enjoy what they did with Steve Austin and his character. And like you said, the story, like every week was just something, whether Austin was coming into the ring with a Zamboni and, trying to get McMahon, or, he was in a wheelchair. Great. It was just such over the top craziness that, one, I don't even know if you can do half the stuff today that they did back then. You know what I mean?
I don't think you can. I think that's why it got soft.
Yeah,
that's why it got soft.
It's unfortunate that if you were too young back then, that you couldn't appreciate it like Dave and I were able to, because we were, because the thing is like, even though the 80s, you and I were kids, we were still old enough to appreciate what was going on during the 80s.
For sure.
And then, get the attitude run.
For sure. Yeah. We got to get going. We're over 3 hours here, and we still have a few super chats.
Time flies.
It does.
I didn't realize it was that late.
I know. Dominic St. Clair says, if they make another Friday film, they need to have the story take place after 2 and continue the story of Amy Steele's character. I would be okay with that. I know Tony would be too.
Absolutely.
100%. Super chat for Movie Chat and More Part 2 sends in a very generous super chat of £20. It says DX and HBK forever. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Do you know what you know what they need to do? Because even this Tom Undergaran saying here, in his young days, it was all about Ultimate Warrior, Mr. Perfect, Mr. Perfect. They need to make these wrestlers start coming up with those types of gimmicks again. I think everybody's just basically using their first name, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, they're just kind of like their names, like Bob Johnson, Steve Bill,
Kevin Owens, or what was it? One other AJ Styles or something, like Ronda. I know Ronda's doing Ronda.
Come up with a character like The Undertaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Come up with somebody with a presence.
Where are these characters that they once? They're not doing that anymore.
No, they're not. They're just I think they're taking themselves too seriously. Michael Thorne, $5 says, Dave is God's gift to women. Shout out to one of the funniest moments in the Hate Mail series. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I remember that. Well, apparently. I mean, come on. Okay, we've got all the super chats. We've answered all the questions. That is going to do it for Tony and I. We're over 3 hours now. It's wild. What an epic show this was. Highs and lows and in between, and what a great show. Thank you to our moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber. Thank you to all the super chat questions, the non-super chat questions, I guess we didn't really get to some non-super chat ones, but hey, it was a busy, epic show today. Really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching if you've made it this far. Also, don't forget, I have that horror package for sale. I mentioned at the beginning of the show today. It's on my Many Things Dave McRae Facebook page. Head to the page, check it out there to see if you're interested in it, and DM me if you are. And Tony and I will be back next Monday. Tony, any last things you want to say?
No, I didn't realize 3 hours went by. Man, that was fast.
I know. It was a big show. It didn't. It was a big show. It's an epic show. I think it's like our second one in a row or something. Anyway, have a great night, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Alrighty. Cheers.
Later.